meetings during the COVID outbreak. We are once again coming to you through Zoom. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty
and
and justice for all. This meeting is available for live viewing on Facebook, live listening via the phone-in information provided on the town's website. The meeting will also be rebroadcast on ICAT Government Access Spectrum Channel 1303. Tonight, for each case subject to a public hearing, we will follow a similar order of operations as we normally do. Except tonight, we're going to use remote access options again. Applicants will be invited to join the meeting by video or call when their case is called. Once the public hearing is opened, public input on each case can be received either by email or phone. Similar to a regular meeting, each person providing public comment will need to give their full name and address. They will be given up to 5 minutes to provide their comments to the board. Once your comments have been received, we will move on to the next email or call if any are waiting. We ask anyone sending in comments to put the address or case number in the subject line of the email. During the public hearing for each case, staff will monitor the planningboard@arondaquoit.org email. That's planningboard@arondaquoit.org email. The emails will be read into the record by staff. Please be sure to provide your name and address for the record. Or you can call into the meeting using the information provided on the website and displayed at the bottom of the screen on Facebook. While the public is listening to the meeting on the phone, they can provide comment on the current case by virtually raising their hand by pressing *9 on their phone. If you call in to make comment on a public hearing case, you will receive the prompt on the phone that you have been unmuted. That is your cue to speak to the board. On behalf of the board, we'd like to thank you for your participation and once again ask for your patience as we navigate through our remote public hearings. Anything else to add, Carrie, that any different?
The one thing I'll just share is that this is also being broadcast live on ICAT and being recorded for future broadcasts.
Oh, okay.
So we're currently live. So anybody who's watching at home is watching it in real time.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. With that, Michelle, can you please call the first case?
Yes, I can. First item on the agenda is case number PB 2020-09-1. Upon the matter of request by Allied Signs acting as agent for Daniel Kamen, Arondaquoit LLC for signage approval to replace existing signage with new logo signage on premises 605 Titus Avenue, Rite Aid store in a mixed-use commercial district. This one, I did want to make sure that you all received my email. The applicant asked for a postponement late this afternoon. That they have a new, he said that he asked for a postponement till the December meeting. That they have a new sign booklet, but the other sign company is waiting on Rite Aid's approval of it.
Okay, do we have to take any formal action to table this, or since he asked for a postponement, we can just mark it postponed and go forward?
It would probably be a good idea that we did that. And I would be happy if because this is still open for, as a public hearing is my understanding, right, Carrie?
It is, and it'll continue to be advertised as a public hearing at the next agenda as well.
Do we have anybody that would like to comment?
I see no raised hands, but I'll give somebody a moment in case anybody's here to speak to that issue. And I feel like an auctioneer going once, going twice. I see no hands raised.
But we're keeping it
Yeah,
open.
I'd make a
correct?
motion that we go ahead and table this issue, leaving the public hearing open until the next meeting of the planning board.
I will second that. All those in favor,
Aye.
please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, that passes 7 ayes, 0 nays. Let's move on to the next case.
Okay, thank you very much. Next case on the agenda is case number PB 2020-11-1. Upon the matter of request by Joseph Santa Croce for revised site plan and signage approval to operate a used car sales lot for up to 51 vehicles on premises 889 Eastridge Road, Santa Motors, Inc., in a C business district.
Thank you, Michelle. Carrie, is the applicant ready to address the board?
So I just unmuted the applicant, so the applicant should be able to speak, and as long as they've unmuted themselves on their end. I believe I see Santa Motors here.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good evening.
Does everybody have a copy of the map?
Oh, please state your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Joe Santa Croce, at 915 East Ridge Road. I'm talking on the behalf of Santa Motors. Yeah. So,
Okay.
does everyone have a map of the property?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
So everybody's familiar with some of the changes that you guys requested at the last meeting, correct?
Why don't you give an overview of the project for the folks that are listening? Even though we've had the workshops, it would be good for them all to understand what
No
you're attempting to
problem.
do.
Last meeting we had, there was some things I had to revise, and one of the key points was the pedestrian walkway, which is on the right-hand side of the map. You can see it's colored in. The other one was issues with the signage, the front sign, the post sign on the front. You want it either removed or lowered. That will be removed. Then we have a something with the lights. Okay, the lights needed to be shielded in the front because of glare. We're taking care of that, and they were turned, so then they just needed to be turned to the street, and that was it. I believe that was all that were the key topics of that last meeting.
Okay, at this point, I will open it up for the board to ask questions. I do have one. You said that the sign was going to be removed, but I don't see that on the map as stated that way, or am I missing it?
Okay. I didn't put that on the map. No.
Okay, I also see a freestanding sign, but no details on what that is. Or did I miss something in the emails?
The freestanding sign was, all the details was in the last meeting that I believe we went through. This is talking about, I mean, the freestanding sign, meaning which one? The one in the front of the property? Is that what you mean by freestanding sign that's attached to the building?
I see on your map, it's on Ridge Road East,
Oh,
and
freestanding.
it points to a freestanding sign.
Yeah, okay. I'm talking about the sign that's on the property, that's attached to the property on the building. That's the one that we had it was all in detail on the last meeting, and everybody had a copy of it. Yep, there it is. That's the one.
Chairman, for clarity's sake, and so that anybody watching at home, the signage that's attached to the building would be referred to as building mounted signage.
Building.
Freestanding signage refers to anything that's not mounted to a building.
Okay, all right.
So that might help the applicant as well. So freestanding would be either a monument sign or a pylon sign.
Okay.
And then a building mounted sign is anything that's on the building.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right. What other questions do you have?
Okay, Bernie,
So
I'm
wait a
not
minute,
really
Alan, I'm still
understanding.
not sure. Alan, I'm
Yeah,
still
I
not
don't
sure I
know.
got my questions answered. So I'm still not seeing anything marked regarding the signage is going away on the
Okay.
freestanding building.
All
And
right.
I'm sorry, on the building mounted. And then You did not provide any details on the freestanding sign. I just want to confirm that.
Okay. Yeah, I
No, I'm
don't
just
have,
asking.
I don't have any details on it, no.
Okay. Go ahead, Alan. I'm sorry. I just wanted to confirm what I was hearing.
No, yeah, you did, I mean, because what I'm looking at is what you're looking at, and to me, there's nothing on here, so it's not helpful for me at this moment.
Okay.
Can I just ask directly, are you keeping the sign on the building
Yes.
and you're getting rid of the pylon sign on Ridge Road?
I'm thinking of getting rid of it, but I'm not sure at this point. I'd like to keep it.
So would you like to come back with a better plan to this board so we can help you through this process?
Um, at the moment, well, no, not at the moment. No, I don't think
Well,
so.
what I'm looking at can't help me to say yes to you tonight. I can tell you that right now.
Okay.
I think that there's a couple issues.
This is the reason regarding this sign, because I feel that there's a hardship because of COVID. I believe that sign should stay on the property. And I believe that sign's very important to stay on that property because of, the hardship of what's going on with COVID and addressing this matter. I feel that it's important to have that sign up for visibility purposes.
We might even agree with you, but I can't tell what is going on with the detailed plans that you've given me.
Oh, okay.
So with what you've given me tonight, I can't help you.
Alan, have you seen
What specifically are you looking for? Because I have the details on that right there. You see that?
Alan, have you seen this? This is in the packet. So this is
Yeah, this was that was part of the original application.
Yeah.
right. So this is the signage that he would like for the pole mounted sign, and this is the signage that he would like for the building mounted sign. And I think that
Okay, but he has not made that clear to me right now. He said that he's undecided.
No, that's my decision right there. That's what I would like to do.
And the feedback
Okay.
that we gave him at workshop was that there wasn't necessarily a concern about the building mounted signage, but that there was a concern about the pole mounted signage, and that he was entitled to have whatever amount of signage that the code entitled to him per square footage. But we would prefer to see that signage as a monument style sign rather than as a pole mounted sign. So we were hoping that tonight he would come back with either one or two things: eliminating the pole mounted sign or coming back with a monument style sign that we could approve. So I think that if there's an approval in store for him tonight, it might not include the pole mounted signage. And then I believe that there was also another concern about the lighting.
Yes.
Were you guys able to come up with anything in terms of the building mounted lighting that the floodlights that go onto the parking lot in the front? Were you able to determine if they could be shrouded or if you wanted to change the fixtures to be more targeted and where the light is going?
They were angled. They were angly tilted, so they're not there is no glare from the street. So we tilted them downwards because there's a rotation on them, so they were tilted downwards.
Are they completely flat to the ground as far as the tilt?
No, they're angled.
Okay, so then there will be some level of glare then from the street.
There would be a shield on them as well. Like a glare shield, which is a piece of plexiglass that is affixed to the light fixture, so there's not a glare. But there is no glare that is onto the street. No.
Well, when you can see the bulb in the fixture, there is glare.
There's no spillage on the street, so that I could see. So
And so this piece of plexiglass that you're talking about, that's clear plexiglass?
Yeah, it's a shield.
And so that's not defined a shield
It's
in the lighting world.
well, what's it defined as?
A piece of clear glass that light travels through.
Okay.
A shield would be a piece of metal that shields the view so you can't see it.
I just challenged you right now.
Now, what were you guys looking for? Because I believe that you guys were looking for tilting, right?
I think
They could be tilted at an angle.
We
Mr.
tried to come up
Secretary.
with a solution for you that would be a little less onerous than having to replace the light fixtures in full. So one of the things that we suggested was looking into seeing if there could be some type of shielding that could be attached to the housing of the existing fixtures so that you didn't have to go through the trouble of completely changing out those fixtures. But if there's not, I kind of agree with the rest of the board that that lighting is bright. You can see the bulbs from East Ridge Road. It's not very targeted, so onto the parking lot in the front. And I do also agree that maybe it is a bit of a concern. I thought that pylon signage and the lighting were the two main pieces that we kind of pulled out at workshop. I don't know if anybody else had another thing. I don't remember. The pedestrian access, but that has been addressed.
Yeah.
Those are our two issues as far as I was concerned. I'm not sure I have answers to all.
Now,
those
I have a
questions.
question for you. These lights were originally put on at some point. Now, why was it not addressed when they were attached to the property at one time or another?
That would be a question that staff might be able to address for you. I
Yeah,
don't think
so
anybody on the
without
board.
knowing the year of the installation of the lights, couple of things. One is dark sky compliance may not have been an item or an issue of concern at the time that a prior planning board would have looked at signage. The building mounted lighting might have been installed without town approval or town knowledge. So that certainly may be an issue. So it's hard to know without looking at past building permits that might have been issued associated with the past sign. But now the planning board, it's in their purview to review applications and proposed improvements to a location and impose reasonable modifications or alterations to the application. And so dark sky compliance is a stated preference and goal in the comprehensive master plan. And then they have jurisdiction over signage in this district in general.
And what about the freestanding sign?
Again, it's a discretionary decision for the planning board. And there's a history of other requested pylon signs being removed from a proposed site plan in accordance with the planning board's express preference. So they can be granted or they can be asked to be replaced or removed. It's a discretionary decision. And certainly the deputy town attorney can jump in if I've misstated anything. Okay.
What if I proposed taking out modifying those lights in the front of the structure, the ones that post glare to the street, and if I were to can I keep the freestanding sign if I were to do that? Because the freestanding sign is kind of detrimental for this business. I think it's very important that we have, especially with these times that are going on. More visibility for someone, for their business is very important. And just, putting the name out there is very important for us to do and for other, neighboring properties as well. But I think that sign, the freestanding sign, is very important for my business to survive these times. And that's why I'm requesting that I keep the freestanding sign. And I can modify the lighting in the front to meet the needs that you want. I don't know what your thoughts.
Croce, I think we all agree that the sign on the street is an important part of your business. And that's why during the workshop, we suggested that perhaps you come and propose a monument sign to us. That's something that we as a board and the town is moving towards. We're trying to get rid of all the tall pylon signs. I personally do not want to see a pylon sign out in front of this business. I'd like to see a freestanding monument sign, yes. Pylon sign, no.
I agree.
I think you're going to find that most of us do agree on that. And that was what we asked for at the last workshop regarding this application. It would be really helpful for me if you just put it down on paper so I had a better look at it, because the latest version you sent us is the one that the chair referenced at the beginning and did not have a full containment of all of the issues you wanted to bring forth in a way that I could understand them. Or so I'm hoping that we're able to do that. I would like to see you request an adjournment until next month so we can get this done and you can put it on some paper, but that's entirely up to you.
Okay.
I think, you know, you could certainly do what Alan said and ask the table and come back with if you want to keep the sign, come back with a proposed monument style sign and, you know, some more details on the lighting. The other thing that I could propose to the rest of the board is we could approve his site plan and say no signage, and then allow staff to review the lighting changes. If if he feels like he really needs the approval tonight, that would be something that I would be comfortable with. I don't know about the rest of you.
I'm not covered. I would prefer that we have less flexibility on this.
I don't see the necessity for a condition. I think there's time for him to make the change to December.
I was just trying to offer the applicant another option. If he felt like he needed to get an approval tonight, he could probably get it, just mine it with the condition to remove the pylon sign.
Well, can we do that? I think they would. I think they would be best for us.
I mean, I would make I don't have the agenda in front of me, but.
The trouble is with that is I want to see the lighting too.
Absolutely.
I want to see everything.
Yeah, but I can't see that if I give you an approval tonight.
Right. My guess is you can go ahead and make that motion, Brad, and
Okay.
see where you go. Or you can let me make a motion with what I would like to do.
You want to table it, Alan?
That would be my preference as opposed to voting no on it.
I don't feel strongly about this motion. I was just offering it as something that I thought would be helpful to the applicant.
I would be in support of seeing the applicant provide us with what is really being proposed on these light fixtures, because I'm not confident at the moment that there's a great way to make these light fixtures not basically be completely visible on Ridge Road. So I would like to see it come back with some more information on that.
And I think we should see all the specs that go along with it also. It just shouldn't be a dialogue.
So Mr. Santa Croce, I think the board's kind of leaning towards, instead of taking this forward and potentially it could not go the way you were thinking, it might be advantageous for you to provide the information that was requested at the workshop at the next meeting, and we can take this forward. You can attend the next workshop just to ensure that all the information that the board's looking for is there. And I would strongly recommend that so that this could move forward. It's
Okay.
up to you though. It's entirely up to you. It's your choice.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'd like to speak on behalf of Santa Motors. My husband and I own Santa Motors, and this is our son. Okay.
Sure.
Excuse
You
me,
need
I'm
to
sorry, ma'am.
please
We just need,
your name and address, please.
My name is Mary Russo, Santa Croce, and the address is 915 East Ridge Road. Rochester, New York, 14621.
That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I would like the board to consider, we're in the middle of COVID, and we have spent a lot of money in the town of Arundecoit and have expanded our business in Arundecoit and would like to continue to do so. But we need your help. We really don't want to have to wait another month before being able to put vehicles on the property next door. And I understand the importance and the preferences of the town, and I respect that utmostly. But in the meantime, I also have a business I need to keep running and expanding. That's vital to us. So I would ask the board to let me know what can be done if we could get the permits and then resume another session. I mean, we will, alter the lighting the way you want it. We will work with the town, we always have, but it's really pertinent and important for us to be in place with these permits today.
Can I ask a question to staff? Are they not permitted to put vehicles on this new property?
We were holding that. They have this special use permit in place, but that was conditioned on this board's approval of the site plan. What I was going to offer is you could contemplate the site plan, which means the physical use of the property, where the cars are going to be parked, and the signage is the item that seems to be the issue that needs to further review and analysis. So I don't know whether or not that's something the board wants to contemplate, is moving forward with the decision on the actual use of the site, and then not rendering a decision on the signage associated with the business.
Well,
I
that,
think we've got
that being
Kind of
said,
skipped over the lighting. Yeah.
Yeah.
that being said, why don't we toss around that idea that we hold in hand the signage and the lighting, and we bring to the table the use of the lot for parking cars, for displaying cars.
My problem is, and maybe Nate can help us with this. I'm not sure how we prohibit them from lighting the site once we allow cars to go on it.
We just tell them that they can't, and
Yeah, the practical effect would be, the practical effect would be permitting use and whatever other aspects of the site plan that was submitted, the location of the vehicles, but then that use would need to proceed without the proposed lighting or without the proposed signage. Whether that's feasible or not would be for the applicant to answer, but it sounds like carrying out what the board's proposing here would mean no approved lighting or signage at the property.
new signage.
Any signage.
Well, they have signage there now.
Right.
I mean, also understand, we're already right next door to this property. So, like I said, any consideration the board can have, just allow us to display the vehicles. And then, we will attend the workshop, we will make the lighting modifications, we will work on signage, and provide all the information and all the modifications that you're requesting. But what that would allow us to do as a business is continue expanding, because you have to understand, board, we were hit with COVID right at the onset of starting our permit process. We've actually owned the property next door for 2 years, and we have not been able to use it. So any help you can give us, we would greatly appreciate.
Can I ask a quick question then, either to staff or to Nate, whoever answers me? Can we give them preliminary approval tonight for moving the cars only and nothing else? And the full site plan is conditioned on them meeting those other goals, the signage?
Yeah, you can. We don't often use the preliminary versus the final, but certainly that's an option for you here. So granting preliminary approval with respect to the site plan, the use of the site, and the layout of the parking of the vehicles as presented, and then holding
no other
final.
use, right?
Yeah, and then holding final for the final details as discussed by the board.
If I remember correctly, there were a couple of stipulations about a couple of parking spots that we thought should not be there. Brad, was that not in your bailiwick?
So I have the paper copies in front of me, but I know that Michelle sent additional stuff in the emails. So I'm looking through that right now because I know that there were some revisions. Isn't that right, Michelle? You had sent us some stuff in revision?
On the site plan.
Yeah, I see it right here. I'm bringing it up. Actually, I don't see it. We got a lot of emails about revisions, so I'm trying to sort through them.
I try to put the address in the search in the subject line so you can search for 889 Eastridge Road.
Got it. So they did send an updated one, and it does look like the parking spot that I was concerned about. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I mean, I'm satisfied with it. Yeah, that seems to have been addressed. There was a parking spot in the drive lane that was kind of over in the old submission, and it looks like that's been fixed. So that should be fine. So I think it's just the lighting and the signage.
So, Mr. Chair, if I can make an attempt, I would, to make a motion on PB 202011-1 that we issue a preliminary approval to move vehicles on the property only. Any lighting and signage use has been prohibited until they meet the goals that were stated in the workshop and then again tonight at the hearing.
No, you don't want, I don't know, can we approve it, but say remove the pylon sign, remove the lighting, and put a condition on it that says any changes to lighting or signage comes back to the board?
I want to see the stuff in writing. I don't like the flexibility. It leads to uncertainty as far as the town goes.
It wouldn't lead to any uncertainty because
I think we're going to get to the same thing, Brad. I don't know that we're arguing about a different vehicle here. I think we're saying that we want them to come back. I can't order them to remove anything.
Well, if you approve the site plan with the signage, with the pole sign removed, then we know if we go this way, the pole sign could stay there until they decide to come back at their, is there any?
But they can't use any lighting and they can't use any signage.
So Carrie, if we approve the preliminary site plan tonight and allow them to park the cars there, which is really the goal, right? And then is there something that's going to kick in at some point to force them to get final site plan approval?
I think you could just make a stipulation that they have to come back with that fixed by the December meeting.
Yes, and we would be fine with that.
And I would accept that as an
Fine with that
amendment.
stipulation.
Yeah, I'm looking, so I think if the board is indicating that it's granting this preliminary approval for the parking of vehicles subject to final site plan approval and signage approval being granted at the December meeting, that might be a cleaner way to address the motion so that it provides a clear timeline.
And if for some reason the applicant doesn't come, it sounds like they will be, right? But let's say something happens and it's March and they haven't showed up, then do we rescind the preliminary approval for the parking, or then what is going to happen there?
Shut them down.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, I think that because the preliminary approval is being granted and with a timeline provided, if that timeline isn't met, then the board could, because what we'll do is wind up putting this application, you may want to also it's probably going to be put to the table. So there would be an item for board action. So somebody would be able to make a motion to call it up from the table and then proceed with an action from there. If the applicant for some reason doesn't come forward as they've been asked to do.
And Carrie, in my making the motion, I did not allow for the chair to call for anybody that would like to.
There was a couple things we did there, Ellen. We didn't do the public meeting. We didn't do seeker, which is type 2. So we can just call that when we get to it. But we should do the public meeting at this point in time.
The public hearing.
Public hearing. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll open the public. If the applicant's okay, unless you have anything else to say to the board, we'd like to get input from the public if there is any. Okay with the applicant? You're set at this point in the
Yes.
where we're going?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we'll open the public hearing. Carrie, is there anybody who would like to talk to this matter?
I'm going to take a look, and I don't see anybody currently with their hand raised. If we want to wait one more second, in case anybody's having technical difficulties. Michelle, can you just check the planning board email account really quick, just to make sure no one's emailed in with a live question? Vanna would be very proud of the two of us.
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. So I still don't see any hands raised, which
There's
is an
no
indication-
emails. There's no
Bear with
emails.
me. Bear with
Michelle,
me.
Okay.
I have no emails to the planning board email address.
So since we're only giving preliminary, are we going to keep the public hearing open also? Suggestions?
There's no harm in keeping it open.
I think it would be better.
Yeah.
So we'll keep the public hearing open. And with that, just like to declare it as a type 2 action. We can get that out of the way with preliminary, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, we haven't done preliminary in a while. I don't need a motion for that because it's type 2.
You
correct?
don't, you just include it as a statement as part of the motion that's being made typically.
And with that, Ellen, would you proceed with your motion, please?
On PB 2020-11-2, or I'm sorry, -1, that we issue preliminary approval for the moving of vehicles onto the property only, that the applicant will come back at the December meeting for the final approval that will include a sign detail as well as a lighting detail.
Okay.
I'll second that. I didn't hear it unless I heard somebody else there. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask, we're holding their feet to the December meeting?
Yes.
Or are we going to say a future meeting?
No, they can come back in December and ask us to adjourn.
I think
it,
I
but
heard
would
they were
like to have-
willing to come back in December also. So
Yes,
Okay, I'm just saying, because the way your motion sounds, it says they are coming back in December, and if they decide they don't want to.
well, I think they already kind of, well,
Okay, that's fine.
I thought they committed.
Yes, we did. We have committed.
Yep.
I think I would just throw it in the motion for good measure is all that anybody's saying. So to add the date.
So I had that as part of the motion. So
Yeah.
before we go forward, Michelle, could you just repeat the motion as you heard it? Or would you like me to?
My monitor won't, yes, please do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, no problem. So what I have in
Point.
Alan's motion was for the moving of preliminary approval for the moving of vehicles only. Applicant is to address a lighting plan and signage plan by the December 2020 meeting, December 2020 planning board meeting for final approval. You might have said it a little bit different, Alan, but I think that covered it.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, it says the same thing.
And I seconded it. are we ready for a vote, or is there anything more on the motion? Well, looks good. All those approved, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. There's no extensions, no absent. This is approved to move forward. I just want to make sure the applicants, if you have any questions around this preliminary approval, you are allowed to move the vehicles only, but you do have to come back with the lighting and the signage plan. Is that good?
Yes, and we understand.
That helps you? And we wish you much success. Hopefully this will help.
And I'd like to thank the board for your consideration to ensure our success. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you at the workshop meeting and the next meeting to get this closed out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, I'm ready when you are.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next item on the agenda is case number PV 2020-11-2. Upon the matter of request by Michael Alisi, Lilac Properties LLC, for revised site plan approval to convert the first floor from retail space to a residential dwelling unit, creating a multifamily structure on premises 2012 East Ridge Road in a C business district.
Barry, are you looking for the applicant? Carrie, are you on mute?
You are on mute, Carrie.
Yep, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm grabbing the applicants right now. Hold on one moment. So I'm just going to ask anybody that's, any of the applicants, if they want to indicate who's going to be speaking by raising their hand. Oh, bear with me for a moment. I saw him. Oh, there we are. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Apologies, it took me a second to find him on the list. So Michael, you should be able to speak now, as long as you're unmuted on your side. And I do see you now joined on the meeting. Michael, are you there? It looks like you're muted on your side. Michael. So I've asked him, he's here. We're going to try one more thing. Maybe that'll help. Hold on one moment. Michael, are you there? So I added Michael as a panelist because it seemed like that he was there, but he's not able to speak. And he's there and he's not muted.
So can we move to the next one and come back?
We certainly, Michael, can you hear me?
You can hear me now, can't you?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Yep.
we can.
I don't know why my computer does this. I do a lot of Zoom meetings and sometimes it locks. So I apologize for that.
Nope, that happens to the best of us.
Thank you very much for bearing with us, obviously, during these unusual times. Good evening, board members, and thank you for hosting. My name is Michael Alisi. I'm the owner of Lilac Properties LLC, located at 2002 East Ridge Road. I wanted to attend the workshop, actually, and I had some surgery, so I was not able to. I trust that you all have a packet that I sent with some details of the project and the architectural drawings. I'll recap the reason why we would like to convert this space. We have owned the property since approximately 2013, and I did some quick math today. It's been vacant for 57% of the time between 2013 and today. And that's with 3 different tenants. And the main issue with the property is it's a small space, and at retail, it really doesn't work very well. We always thought we might be able to find a professional type lawyer or architect or accountant office or a small plumbing firm, something along those lines. We've been unable to do any of that. We did have a UPS type store when we bought the property that left shortly after. We had a young man try a vape shop that only lasted 6 months. And we had a mattress store who lasted about a year. So my partner and I looked at each other and just said, what can we do with this space that'll make it more feasible financially for us? And as you see, we have hired an architect to go ahead and show you our plans for a rather large 2-bedroom apartment. I think that's what I wanted to get across to you. That's the gist of the situation. I know there's going to be questions, and I think I'm prepared. I hope I am.
Thank you, Michael. I'm looking at a mail note dated 11/16, where you addressed parking, lighting, EAF, and south elevation. Can you go over that, please?
Yes, I know that one of the things, there was a mistake on the EAF, number 10. For some reason, I selected, this is new to me, by the way, and do a lot of these things. For some reason, I selected, we will not be connecting to public water supply, and that was an error. So number 10 of the EAF should be, we are indeed connecting to the public water supply. I had the question about elevation. Can you refresh my memory on that again, please? My architect, we emailed back and forth.
Sure. South elevation, what I have here is our drawings are only showing the proposed modifications to the first floor. We have a note on sheet A100, detail 4 at the second floor level that says not verified, shown for overall massing purposes only. We are not removing any windows on the second floor. Sorry for the confusion.
Okay, good. I'm glad that she sent you that because I asked her to. So yes, in other words, there is nothing being done to the second floor. We are installing a window on the first floor, but nothing to be done above the first floor. Does that make sense and answer your question?
So the windows on the first floor are changing from the single plate glass to new windows with the grids?
No, the windows on the front, we are going to install gridding on them. The reason that we didn't change those windows is multi. We didn't want it to be too dark, and there's nothing wrong with the windows that's there now. And the architect said we can put nice framing in there and they'll look beautiful. The tenant can put up curtains and it'll be fine. That was our thinking.
So the windows on the second floor are staying as they are currently, and then the windows on the first floor will remain the same windows, but you will install grids in them.
Yes, with the exception of the east side of the building on the first floor. We are going to install a window in the very front bedroom. Currently, it's concrete block. And we are going to install a window on the front bedroom, which would be the southeast bedroom. It is shown in the drawing as, geez, it's so small, it's hard for me to read this one. New double hung egress window, existing bulk wall, head 7.0, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to be a new installed window on the first floor. Nothing's changing on the second floor again. I will also call your attention to the rear of bedroom 2, which will be the northeast corner. Currently, that's a double door, and we are going to remove that double door, use the framing, and put a sliding window back and forth, which will also have, I believe, egress. Double door install, new slider window grass for egress. Yeah, so both bedrooms will have egress from windows. They'll both be new windows. We'll just be using the existing framing on the rear bedroom because there's already a door there. We're going to have to go through the block on the front bedroom.
Okay, and then the other two on the email was lighting around the exterior of the building and then the parking in the front.
Okay, so lighting, right now, we have mercury vapor lights on the front of the building. On the east side of the building, where there's going to be that new window I mentioned, right now, there's really nothing there. If the board said to us, we would prefer to have that east side lit up, we're not opposed to putting a light there. The rear of the building, there is a light. And on the west side of the building, there's an entrance. As you see, it says existing step down to exterior gate. Forget that, I'm sorry. Existing door to remain, it says milk box. So there's a doorway there that goes in. There is a light over that doorway. So I guess to answer your question, we'd be very happy to add a light on the east side, or if there's something else you think we should do, we're not opposed to it. We're going to be a lot of construction there. Electricians, lights aren't going to be a make or break proposal for this job. I just don't want to overlight it. You know, I don't know much about how this works.
Michael, is there anything happening on the east side of the building?
No, there's an empty space between the east side of the building and the Chinese restaurant, and we own that building as well.
So there's no real reason to light it.
No,
not really. I think it would just be light noise, but that's my unprofessional opinion. If you look in the packet, there's a picture of the entire parcel. It's going to look something like that. Forgive me for the copies being so bad, but you can see it says 2012 East Ridge Road, and you can see that to the east of the building in question, there's a restaurant, and there's really nothing there but empty space.
No, we're fine with it. I don't think any of us are gonna want you to light it up for no reason.
Now, if you want me to move to the parking, I will. I don't want to move too fast.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so the parking. In my original request to the board, one of the things that we thought would be a benefit is, let's assume that we found a commercial tenant, which we've had, like I said, 43% of the time has been a commercial tenant there. And cars pulling in and out to get to the front of that store were a more regular occurrence than we think a tenant would be. So I thought, geez, the board's going to like the fact that we're going to have less maneuvering in and out of that road. After the workshop, I understand that maybe someone thought maybe we should reduce or remove those parking spots. And we're opposed to that for a number of reasons. A, we think the tenants will like to park near the entrance they're going to use. I don't think a tenant's going to be crazy or very happy about in the winter having to park in the rear, walk up through steps, through snow, around to the front of the building to enter. The other reason we don't really think getting rid of parking is a good idea, because we own the entire parcel here. And sometimes parking's very tight in different areas. So sometimes the rear lot will get full. If our laundromat's busy, the nail salon, the hair salon, and these apartments, sometimes it looks like a lot of parking, but it can get full. So I'm just opposed to getting rid of parking just to get rid of parking. I know that there's going to be reasons that you might have. I'd like to hear them, but we really would like to keep the parking as is. The only other thing I will say is we can put signage up to specifically say this spot is for apartment A at 2012 East Ridge Road only. So any of our commercial tenant or any of our commercial customers won't use those spots. They'll be dedicated to the 3 apartments. When I say 3 apartments, I apologize. There's a 1-bedroom on the 2nd floor and a 2-bedroom on the 1st floor. So we assume 3 cars.
Michael, what's the distance between the sidewalk and the parking space?
That I don't think I can answer for you. But I can say this. If you look at that overall map again that I highlighted in orange, the orange is, I think, our boundary line. And you can see the sidewalk between that boundary line and the road. and you can see the parking spots in front of our laundromat. You can see cars parked there. I don't think there's more than, if a car's in there, more than a couple of feet, maybe 36 inches between the sidewalk and the end of a car, depending how long it is.
So would you let your kids walk out there?
Would I let my kids walk on the sidewalk? I wouldn't let them walk on the sidewalk if they were young. If they were old enough to walk on the sidewalk, I would. Again, these 3 spots are in front of 2012. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spots in front of 2002, or 10 actually, that are used on a regular basis. So
Can
I
I
guess
ask staff how many parking spots they need then for that laundromat by code?
Are you asking me? Because I don't go, I'm
That was
sorry.
a question to staff.
Yeah, so the parking, if that were to be coming before the town board, or excuse me, the planning board now, or to the town, it's 4.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet. For a use like this, I have to just verify this is treated as a retail operation without knowing the retail, without knowing the square footage of the retail uses there. It's difficult to know. However, the more than likely the parking that's available on the back side of the lot is sufficient to meet the code requirement.
Okay.
And then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then for parking with respect to the dwelling units, for multifamily, which this building would exist, I believe they would need two spaces per unit.
2 spaces per unit?
So they need 4 for that multifamily building, because there's 2 units in the building.
And these,
regardless of how many bedrooms there are.
Oh, gotcha.
Apologies, Brad.
Understood.
It's hard to tell on Zoom when someone's done. It's a little lag. And both of these structures are on 2 different lots. Is that correct?
No, all the structures are on one contiguous lot. So the 3 buildings, there's the building that houses the laundromat. There's the freestanding building that's the subject of this application, which is proposing to convert current retail space on the first floor to a dwelling unit. And then there's an additional building to the east that continues to be on the same lot. So this is 3 buildings on one lot.
The only reason I say that is because on the G100, I see it marked lot 1 and lot 2. That's what made me think that, but maybe that's not correct or something else.
Yeah, it may be an older map that might have been before, but I'm seeing it as one contiguous parcel. I'll verify that.
You're saying even so, the amount of parking that's on the area with the businesses on it has enough parking by code for the uses, and certainly the space that's going to be used as an apartment has way more than parking than is required by code. So even if we were to ask for these parking spots to be removed, it would still be code compliant across the board with the number of spaces available.
Yeah, you would not be creating a need for a variance, if that's the question.
That's all I need. Yep. Thank you. I just going to speak out a turn here, Bernie, if you want to stop me. I think that we need to remove those spaces. I don't think it's safe. It's a residential area right now. It's been converted from a commercial use. People will not be expecting cars to go in and out of there. And we're also trying to, I mean, it's part of the comprehensive plan and probably part of the master plan that, you know, this is a walkable community and that should be a walkable area. It's got actually lively stores right in that area. You know, it sans the Abbott's on the corner that we could use to have come back. But I think that people do walk up and down that area. And especially I've seen folks walking back and forth to the laundromat up and down Ridge Road. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'd like to see those spots removed. I think it's a safety issue.
I agree with you, Alan. I've actually parked there before, not in front of this building, but in front of the retail establishments, and I will never do it again. I felt incredibly uncomfortable backing out onto Ridge Road across the sidewalk. It was not a comfortable experience. I was very concerned about the traffic on the sidewalk, the foot traffic on the sidewalk, but also being able to get out of the back out of the spot onto Ridge Road was a little perilous. So I'm gonna echo what you're saying. I think that these parking spots need to be removed. And I think that they have to be removed in such a way that it doesn't become an issue for enforcement. I think that the asphalt or something has to go away because, I mean, we can remove them on paper, but that doesn't mean that they're going to go away in practice.
So I agree, actually, Bradley, with what you're saying, what Alan is saying. And I was trying to find, but I can't put my hands on it, but this originally came to us as a referral back to the town board, I believe. I'm going on memory. And I thought, even in our comments for approving it, we said we wanted this applicant to come back because of parking was one of the issues. Am I thinking correct, or?
You
Yes.
are, and that's why the town board, in its discussion, requested this go back to the planning board for review. And that's a stipulation of the special use permit that was granted by the town board, is receiving site plan approval from the planning board. So to the extent that, to the extent that you want to impose site plan conditions, that's within your purview, and it's what's the special use permit that was granted is based on.
Right. I wish I could find the letter. But I also thought the applicant themselves said one of the reasons the businesses didn't do well was because of the dangerous parking that Bradley so aptly described. So, I mean, in my mind, I think that's one of the things that we would like to see be removed. And I do agree with Brad that we would like to see that replaced so that it doesn't ever leave the option that they could park there. Somehow or another, it has to be made so that people could not park there.
Could we not,
Either,
could we
Go
not
ahead.
request that they put out there that those pipe barriers that come up about 2 feet horizontally, and then they, in other words, it's that round silver painted pipe that comes up a couple of feet with supports somewhere along the line?
I guess that's one option. I kind of like Bradley's option of green space if possible, but to that extent, you got to make sure that people can't park on it, to your
Well,
point.
I'd
and
like
it
the
needs
green
some type
space
of
along
buffer.
with the pipe.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
I think at the very least, rather than seeing like pipe bollards or rail or something, if asphalt removal is just too costly, which I'm not saying it is, that we can continue that discussion, but I think a compromise would be some sort of nice looking permanent planters or something. It's got to be something I think that provides some sort of vegetation.
Yeah, I don't think just posting a sign "you can't park here" is going to work. Is what I think Bradley was trying to make that point too. So
I think though too, if you're trying to market this as a place to live, it's reasonable for people to have a spot of grass somewhere, even if it is on the front of the house on Ridge Road. There's absolutely nothing here for anyone to take a dog outside, for a kid, anything.
There's no place to put a grill. There's nothing, and the only place you could do that would be in this location.
I mean, I agree that it's not the best location for a front yard, but it's just nothing. I mean, nothing. And
What'd you do with that?
Can I ask the applicant, hearing what the board is giving you as feedback, what would be your solution to eliminating that parking if you had to do that?
Well, it's interesting. I've served on many boards over the course of my years, and I have a duality here going on in my head. I can understand the town's wish and request for a number of things. Certainly safety. I can see how you're looking at it. The only thing I will say is that that particular building has a heck of a lot more room between the sidewalk and the front of the building. But I see your point. I do think it'll create a little bit of a hardship as far as parking goes for rents. I've been dealing with residential tenants for close to 30 years, and the first question is, where's parking? Where's the parking? Where's the parking? And then when winter, it's difficult. I'm not going to change your mind. I'm not even going to attempt to. If it was a commercial building, one thing I do want to mention though, that I did say that originally. I did say that one of the reasons it's hard to get a commercial tenant there is because backing in and out is difficult. That's a fact. But remember that having it be an apartment is an improvement on that. And the board is taking it from an improvement to now negating it completely. So I said that out of truth and fact, but it's now being kind of looked at as, well, that's one of the reasons we shouldn't allow parking at all there. And I guess that's just, it's a little bit unfortunate. We own a lot of property, and taking away parking spaces is difficult. It actually can monetarily hurt us when we go to sell it. If it's going to be dependent on us having a tenant that is going to pay rent more than 50% or 43% of every year, then certainly it's worth doing. If we're going to go down that road, there's one thing I am concerned about. Keeping something alive on East Ridge Road all winter long is a challenge that I hope this board does not put upon us. We can do a number of things to keep people from parking in there, but having pretty flowers and green grass on East Ridge Road no more than 15 or 20 yards from salt trucks and 6 months of snow is something that I don't want to have to do. So maybe we come up with someone to compromise, but I appreciate the respect and desire for green space. I understand this is the era we live in, but let's not forget, this is a commercial area. And if you look at the amount of cars pulling in and out of our laundromat alone, which again, I don't want to argue against my own property here. I know that wouldn't be approved now. We certainly don't want to change it, but it's not like cars aren't pulling in and out of our laundromat at a way huger rate than they would be in this particular space.
Well, it is a commercial area, right? And that's why you had to get the special use permit. And that's why we have a concern about what needs to be done to make it reasonable for residential.
Understood.
And for what it's worth, I'm on Google Maps right now, and I just popped myself down in front of the property and spun around 360 degrees. Every property adjacent to this, minus the laundromat property, does have grass up against the road, up against the sidewalk, that at least in the time of year this picture was taking, looks pretty good. So I mean, it's not impossible to maintain grass along a commercial road.
It's not impossible. It just costs money. So I guess I respectfully disagree with losing the parking spots, but I understand the board's consideration, the concerns, I should say.
Can I offer you, Michael, can I offer you my opinion as an longtime renter?
Sure.
If I was pulling into this business when it was a mattress store, which would happen once every, hopefully maybe 10 years, I'd be buying a new mattress. I wouldn't mind backing out onto East Ridge Road. If I had to pull into a parking spot in front of this house every single day because I lived there, I would not want to back out into East Ridge Road every single day. Maybe, listen, you're a landlord, and so you may have a different opinion, but as someone that had rented for a long, long time, location of parking is important, but more importantly is ease of parking. I will park behind a house and walk to the front door before I will park in the street and walk a shorter distance. So
that's a very good point. It is, and you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And I don't even I don't ever park in there because that's for my customers. I park around the back. I've got my own spot, but I don't like parking there because I want to back out. I don't want to back out in East Ridge Road, 35, 40 mile an hour, and there's a lot of traffic. So your point's well taken. Like I said, I'm not going to change your minds on this, and I don't think I'm going to even, that's not even something I want to do. I just want to make the place an apartment, a nice apartment, and get rent. and move on with the real estate management that we do. So the trick, I think, will be is how I designate the cutoff line from where there is parking. At the corner was going to be the east side of the building at 2002 East Ridge Road. If you're looking at the map, it's got silver coated roof. It looks very different. Where am I going to, I got to draw a line for that last parking spot on the end. So I might want to meet, is there someone on payroll at Arundecoit or Department of Public Works person that could meet me there, and we could kind of say, this is what we're looking at. This is an acceptable line where we make this cut. Is that yes or no? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Oh, we're talking to somebody else. But you know what I'm
actually the staff person that you need to meet with. Public Works deals with the public right of way. It would be myself would be the staff person to meet on site if that was.
Yeah, that's my question. Is where that demarcation will be. We actually are getting this entire parking lot paved next year. And I'll just mention it's $72,000. But while he's there, we can dig that up and we'll figure out how to grow grass on that spot. It could be done. And if they want to use it as a yard or something like that, they can. Gas grill, whatever is fine. But I'm not completely opposed, and I respect the feelings of the board.
So I would just like to say I very much appreciate Mr. Alessi's willingness to at least hear our discussion and so on. The one question that I have, I guess, for my fellow board members is if we're talking about converting some of this space to grass, are we maintaining a curb cut and a drive around the east side of the building? It's hard without a plan in front of us, similar to what we just talked about in the last application. It's hard for us to move forward on this without knowing, I think, some of what we're actually looking at here.
Well, I might be able to answer that. If you look at the east side of the Chinese restaurant, which is the building on the far east, there's a large entry into the rear parking there. And there's another large entry into rear parking on the northwest corner, which would be between Polska Chata restaurant and the back of our store. So there's an in and an out from both the north side and the south side and west side. Did I answer your question? Because taking those spots away really doesn't affect flow of any kind. There's really no flow from those spots into that rear parking.
Here's my question. I guess this is to staff, and maybe this helps you, Spencer. Carrie, the next time you guys do any improvements on that section of Ridge Road, can we eliminate that curb cut on paper so it gets done?
So the curb cut, you mean the entrance from East Ridge in front of that building? That's correct. The subject. Yes. Yeah, so that would actually be a right-of-way permit issued through Monroe County Department of Transportation. So the curb cut that's there now, they would have to work through Monroe County DOT for that curb cut to be removed, so that that's not a driveway entrance. And I'm looking, and I apologize, I'm looking at it, I'm gonna look at a different location. I'm looking on both pictometry and, so the one that's right in front of the building, so that, that's in the public right of way. Is that what this board's requesting, that curb cut be eliminated, or that you are looking at doing some renovation to pavement closer to the building?
So my question that I asked a minute ago was, there's a relatively wide curb cut in front of what was most recently the mattress store. I personally was not asking for that curb cut to be removed because I think that is very economically onerous on the applicant. My question was, there's currently asphalt, if I'm looking at Google photography accurately here. There's currently asphalt that goes from that front area that we're talking about changing to grass directly adjacent to the east wall of this building and then goes
Right.
to the rear parking lot.
Yeah, that's,
And my question was, are we changing all of that front area so there is no communication from the rear of the building along that east side? Or are we maintaining a quote unquote, what I'll call a now downsized curb cut, even though I'm not proposing that they have to change the curbing on East Ridge Road so that they could still drive in or drive out around the east side of the building? That was my question.
So you're wanting to know whether or not you want to keep a drive aisle essentially that connects from Eastridge Road along the east side of the building.
Yeah, that was just my question based on if we're going to change things to grass, you know, and that asphalt is currently there. What's happening with that asphalt directly to the east wall of the building?
Oh, I see what you mean. There is a little, you know, that's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that. It's almost like a drive. There's almost like a driveway there. We've never let people drive through that before. So,
I don't think you can you?
Well, you could. We've got it blocked off on the north side so people don't drive through that. I've never wanted people to drive through that.
Yeah.
I think the only reason that it might someday maybe be something that an emergency vehicle could get through, but like I said, there's entrances on both sides. You know, I'm going to have a paving contractor there, and we already have a budget. I guess what I'll agree to do is Carrie can meet with me and we'll figure out the line of demarcation between the allowed parking in front of our store that's existing and where that brings it over to the sidewalk. We can take all that blacktop out and we will bring it to the rear of the building and we'll grow grass in there. The one thing I do want your advice on is what should we put in just on the other side of the sidewalk so people to realize it's not a parking spot. Just because it's grass doesn't mean someone's not going to drive on it. A guardrail will look horrible. You know, we could put, you know, 2-foot post concrete. I guess that's something maybe I'll look online and see what people do, or maybe you have an idea.
I mean, honestly, just a little picket fence might seal the deal.
It could. It really could.
Something. And, you know, 15 feet of open style fencing. Put the grass in, paint it white, and look at that. It's a button.
Yeah. Without we usually use vinyl, we could never have to usually.
Sure. Even better.
Right.
Would that require any variances?
That would not. So it would actually just require this board's approval. Sign or fencing in a commercial district is subject to planning board review. So if the applicant wanted to, what might make the most sense is for the applicant to come back to next month's meeting. Once, I don't know if the applicant's paving contractor is able to be on site in short order, and they might be able to provide some guidance as to what and where might be repaved. And then if the applicant wanted to show where fencing or demarcate where the area might be, where pavement will be removed and grass will be planted, and what delineating sort of feature, whether that's a fence or a small knee wall, whatever they thought would make the most sense for this particular site, that could come back before this board at next month's meeting so that everybody's clear on what's happening and where.
I think it would also be helpful to know what the right-of-way width is of East Ridge Road onto those parcels. How deep does it, I mean, where are they parking right now? Is that even kosher because of the right-of-way depth?
Well, I'll take a look at the survey map and provide you with the measurement out from, you know, unfortunately with our pictometry, access to pictometry, although it does provide parcel lines, they're not a true depiction of the actual legal boundary because of the difference in plan view versus oblique view, which is how the photos are taken, the ortho imagery. But we can get a sense of how far out the private property extends. Where the private property ends is where the right-of-way begins. And it does vary along the ridge. So
Sure.
Sometimes what looks and feels like public right-of-way is technically and legally private property, and then vice versa.
And that may even that may even impact how feasible the fence is, because I think you have to be, what, 3 feet back from the right of way for a fence, and sometimes that can put the fence in a weird spot, so.
So just the fencing in residential districts requires it to be the 3 feet back from the property line. However, it's the planning board's, discretion. And to the extent that the private property boundary doesn't extend as close to the sidewalk as you might think, that you may be okay with it being closer than the 3 feet.
Okay.
Carrie's 100% right. Pictometry is not perfect by any means, but looking at it, the property line is depicted relatively close to the sidewalk. So while it may be off a couple of feet, it's got to be there somewhere. So there's certainly room to put a fence in and have it be in the general location that we want.
I'm going to grab something to write with really quick, and I'll be 2 seconds. Thank you.
I think all we have left, I think we're pretty well set with where we're going on this, aren't we? Don't we just have the public hearing to do?
I just want to confirm, I have an email here that says that he's going to remove the pole mounted signage. And I just want to make sure that is, and we have that on, can confirm in fact that is the case.
Yeah, there is a freestanding pole sign that we will cut off with a settling torch when we're doing our work, and it will be removed. And actually grass will be planted where that is now. I'm going to attempt to just draw something really quick here. The paving contractor really isn't going to have a heck of a lot of insight to any of this. I think if Carrie and I met, let me just show you what I'm talking about. And I don't mind coming back. We're not in a huge hurry. We're probably not going to start this job until after the anyway, but let me just attempt to do this and see what you all think. So I just took a black marker, and I don't know how it's going to show up on the screen, but where I just shaded that in black, we remove blacktop and put topsoil and grow grass.
No, I don't think we
Hold on, we can't see it yet, so hold on one moment.
Not yet.
Let me see if I can fix the setting. Bear with me for a minute.
I'm not opposed to doing this in a picture photograph and sending it to all of you, but maybe we could just get this down.
No, we can, we're going to try to show off our technology here.
Picture.
I don't know why it's not letting you. It should be letting you share.
He might have to hit his shared screen.
I'm holding it up to the camera. Is that not the way to do it?
Oh, you know what? Your camera is not on.
Oh, it's not on. That's why you can't see it. Can you turn me on for a minute?
Well, you have to turn yourself on.
Okay, there we go. I'm sorry. Okay. Can you see the black shaded area?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is what I would propose to do, is to take all that blacktop out of there and put grass there. That's the entire 3 parking spaces and the entire east side that is a small little driveway. I don't call it that, but I guess at one time maybe someone used it for that.
Everybody obey.
Good.
And then we could put a fence as far back off the sidewalk as you would tell us, and we can just do it that way. We're good with that. Like I said, I think the big thing is for Carrie and I to meet, and we can actually decide or approve where that has to be. That's the big part, is where we're going to stop the parking that's already there and where the grass starts. Sorry
That's
to put
nice.
pressure on you, Carrie, but
No, I'm happy to meet on site and review the layout, and the applicant can then determine and depict the area that would be replaced with grass.
the other thing I'll say is, now that I look at it, this is all grass over here in the Chinese restaurant. This seat right here is all grass too. So we're adding grass. It actually will flow together. See, this is a problem with them. Been on so many boards, and now I'm arguing against myself. I'm just kidding. I'm a reasonable guy, so I think it doesn't it makes sense to do it this way. It just costs me a little more, but in the end of the day, it's not that big a deal.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So Bernie, I don't know if you wanted to open the public hearing or if the planning board members have any other questions or comments. Oh, Brad, you had a comment. The applicant may have stepped away from his computer at the moment when you raised the question. No, forgive me. The pylon sign was the question you
Yeah, you answered that.
had. Yep.
So Carrie, I apologize. I was talking on mute. So at this point, can we open up the public hearing if there's anybody present who'd like to speak?
So I'm going to look right now at the attendees currently joining us for the meeting. I see no raised hands. Michelle, would you do the honors of checking the planning board email to make sure that we haven't received any live emails while this has been happening?
I'm in there now and I see nothing.
Okay. So we don't have
So I
anybody
think
to speak.
Right. So I don't think we want to close this. We'll hold it open because I believe we're going to hear a motion to postpone this with the applicant's consent. Is that correct?
That's fine. Just, I guess the only question I'd have is if we get to a point where we agree where the demarcation is and everything else answered, at that point, we get an approval to actually start interior construction. Is that, I don't do this a lot. So is that how it flows?
Well, so as far as meetings, we have another workshop that comes up before the next public meeting in December, but I'll let Carrie answer the other question as to when they can start.
So you'd be waiting for the site plan approval issued by this board. And since the sort of the layout of the grass is part of that, what they're contemplating, it would be at after the December meeting that you'd be able to move forward with interior renovation once you've got that approval in place.
What's the date of that December meeting?
I'm looking at the calendar right now, so I can tell
25th.
you.
25th?
No.
No, it is not. That's
I
a
actually wrote it
joke.
down.
That's somebody's really bad joke.
Is it possible to close the public hearing and then just approve the site plan at the workshop?
I think you can do anything you'd like. As far as approvals go, but from a protocol standpoint or a sort of standard practice, that's not something that the planning board has typically done.
It sounded like the applicant was anxious to get started and he's been really workable with us and just trying to.
So I guess my question would be, is there a way we could do preliminary to allow them in to start the work?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to suggest, since you could grant preliminary site plan approval with final being pending on the exact delineation of the exterior, especially since the exterior modifications wouldn't have any impact on the interior build out. So that's certainly a viable way of going about it. So granting preliminary approval now with final site plan to come at the next meeting, pending some additional information from the applicant.
I appreciate that. And very, very frankly, I probably won't even be working in there till after the first of the year. If you want to, fine with me. It's not necessary. I appreciate the offer. I just know now in Christmas, we're not going to be getting contractors. I can't wait to start working. So whatever y'all want to do is fine with me on that.
Well, if it's okay, Bernie, I would just go ahead and make the motion that we just adjourn the case until the next meeting.
I have no problem with that either. I was just trying to make it, I thought the applicant was heading towards, he wanted to get in the building, but since he doesn't have to, this all works out.
Yep.
So I do encourage, though, getting that meeting with Carrie and coming back to the workshop so that this will, we can get you started and approved.
Can you give me the date of the workshop?
I think,
Michelle?
aren't we on the 14th of December and then the 28th?
I believe so.
Yes.
That's correct. 14th and 28th.
So the workshop's the 14th and the next meeting is on the 28th. I think I can attend both of those. Okay, Carrie, I will call you.
So hold on, Michael. We do have to make a motion here. So I would like to get, this is a type 2 action still, is that correct?
This is a
Carrie?
type 2 action for the purposes of seeker. You can acknowledge that now. You would also, it's always a good idea to acknowledge it when you're making the motion, so you can wait until next month to address that.
Sure, but we do need a motion to postpone this per the applicant's request. That's correct.
I believe Alan made one.
Yeah,
and I
PB
was-
202011-2. I move that we adjourn this until the December meeting.
Mr. Evelyn, you're seconding that?
I want to confirm the motion is in that the public hearing will be left open. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Good.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nay? No abstain, no absent. We look forward to seeing you at the next workshop. Thank you for being so cooperative.
Thanks for
working
your
with us.
time, everybody. Thank you. Have a good holiday. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks. Yep, bye.
Oh, good. Now we only have the easy ones left.
Go ahead. Please call the next case, Michelle.
Next item on the agenda is case number PB 2020-10-2. Upon the matter of request by Perone Engineering acting as agent for Episcopal Senior Living Community for preliminary final subdivision, site plan approval, and steep slope watercourse environmental protection overlay district permit to subdivide the existing parcel into two parcels with the proposed construction of 3 connected apartment buildings totaling 74 units with site-related improvements on premises 2732 Culver Road, St. Cecilia's Church in an R5 residential district.
Thank you. Is Carrie's the applicant ready?
So the applicants are, have been added to the meeting and have, are now permitted to speak. It appears that Ed Perone and Scott Fisk have unmuted themselves and are ready to present. There's also Lauren Ranalata and Lisa I'm always going to mispronounce Lisa's last name, either Marcello or Marcello, both from Episcopal Senior Life. I'll also add that Father Gagno is here, and I will add him as well. And I think that is it. And if I'm missing someone from the applicant team, they can certainly let me know. But I think I've gotten everyone.
I think you've got us all at this point.
Thank you. Who's ever going to talk at the podium, please always remember first time to identify yourself, your name and your address. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ed Perone from Perone Engineering, here on behalf of the Episcopal Living Services. And we are here again requesting for seeker determination this evening, as well as final subdivision, as Michelle indicated in her discussion, and preliminary and hopefully final site plan approval, and last, the permit for the EPOT for the water course and steep slope area. I hope the board has received some revised plans based on our last workshop meeting and discussions. The letter addressed November 20th outlines all the revisions that either have been added to the plan and or will be added to the plan. Some of the highlights were trees were one of them, and we did replace the trees from the crab apples to 2 other species, the Lucas hornbeam and the ivory silk lilac trees that replaced the 2 that the board had some difficulty with. We added snow storage areas. We've also addressed and have received a letter from the fire marshal, and his assessment is what we're proposing to do for fire protection seems to be satisfactory. We did go before the conservation board, and in our letter of the 20th, we indicate that we will include their request to be placed on the site plan. The other issue is, and Scott can speak to it if there are questions, I hope that you have the samples of what the materials will be, in particular Building C, which is the one facing Culver Road. He did provide actual samples. We have samples here if we need to show them on the screen, as well as the architectural west elevation of that building, which was the most critical elevation for the site. There are, as far as traffic is concerned, I know the town engineer weighed in on their feeling that the traffic wasn't of a major concern. Initially, the county of Monroe is not an issue as far as traffic is concerned. So I think that that issue has been put to bed. There was a question that the board wanted to discuss relative to a right turn on the ramp of 104, the exit ramp of 104. That can only be done by the town board to enlist the state of New York to consider that. So that would have to be something that the town board would have to initiate because I think there was a question. The issue as far as Brower Road is concerned, there's no anticipation because of the traffic is so low of any changes to Brower Road. I know that there was concern at the last public meeting relative to the difficulty to get onto Brower Road, but we did consult with also the traffic engineer for the previous the project to the south, and he concurred with our assessment that it was not necessary to go through a full-blown traffic study because the volumes were so much lower than what that project was. I think I've pretty much covered all of the highlights of what we want to present this evening. Our letter should address any of the other comments that you might have, and we will be more than happy to answer any of the questions that you all have this evening. And Scott is with me. We're both together so that we can commiserate together on this. So I'll close my presentation at this point in time, Mr. Chairman, and answer any of the questions the boards may have.
Thank you. Mr. Perone, some of us couldn't get to town hall to see the samples. So could you please show on the camera if that's possible, Carrie? Can we enable that?
Yeah, I'm going to need to, I think, promote them to panelist. So bear with me for a moment. So they should be there now. And I believe they have the ability to share screen.
We did. There you are. Can you see these? Can you see them?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Did you already? Hang on one second.
I think you just have to turn their camera on if.
Yeah, so your camera is not on right now, but I'm just going to make sure that there's not anything on my side. So I just sent you a prompt. Oh, there we are. Okay.
Are we there now?
You are.
Yes.
Can everybody see? For folks looking, you may want to change your view from gallery to speaker view, and we'll ask that the.
I'm not real good with this yet.
No, not you. You guys are all set. If our board members change to the speaker view versus gallery, then when Scott and Ned are speaking, you'll see them and their samples more blown up on your screen. Does
That's
anybody,
good.
everybody understand what I was saying?
It was working well until you asked that question, and now all we see is you.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, Mike, but go ahead, Mr. Perone, Mr. Fisk, go ahead.
Okay. So the samples are here, and unfortunately, it's too bad that the board didn't see all of this. But Scott,
Could you put them back up? Could you put them back up again? Sorry, Carrie was talking there, so we didn't get to see him. So.
Can you see him?
Yes, thank you.
What we tried to do in response to our last meetings were again, working from a.
I don't need, they don't have them up now, so forget it.
Oh, do you need them up again?
No, you're good. Keep going.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We had added some more texture along the Culver Road side of the two-story part of the building. It's the same material, that stone material that we're using on other parts of the building. And then we've also, as we had discussed last time, broken up the overall masking of the building by using different colors and a couple of different surfaces. We have clapboard, we have stone, we have a vertical board and batten. I know that sometimes these elevations are hard to read when you're looking at things this large, but I think the materials certainly are of a residential nature for a project of this size. I think they're appropriate for it. And I think that working within what our budget is for this project, I think we've been able to come to a good design
Before I forget, Mr. Chairman, there are two other items that need to be addressed that I failed to acknowledge to the board. The first thing is the sidewalk issue. If you recall, we had a discussion with that. We've now added the sidewalk across the building C, and we make a right angle turn and bring the concrete sidewalk out to the sidewalk along Culver Road. We eliminated the blacktop walk that was farther to the south. And the other item was the site lighting. There was some concern about spillage of lighting onto the apartment complex to the north, to the east. We've since modified and changed that. Our letter reflects that, so that only 0.2 foot candles are actually at the property line, which is very, very minimal. Those are I wanted to make sure that those items got added to our discussion.
Thank you. Anything else before we open it up to board comments?
I don't think so right now.
I'll open it up. Anybody want to start asking any questions, clarifications?
I have tons of questions I can ask. Do we have the west elevation on paper anywhere?
Yes, you do. It was submitted.
When was that submitted?
Yeah, I'm looking for it myself.
I think it was on the 20th of November.
I don't recall getting that.
Neither do I.
Then I referred back to Carrie.
Carrie, Reed also forwarded you a Dropbox link because some of these files are very, very large. I think we had the boards from the prior presentation that we brought the night of the meeting. And then we also provided you with a Dropbox link so that you could see these yourself.
Okay, so we've sort of established that none of the board has seen the west elevation at this moment. Was there a reason that the rest of these revisions came in today? I'm worried about the public not having view of them.
No, they had come in prior to today.
They're dated today, I can tell you. Your letter may be dated the 20th, but they were received on the 23rd. All right. I mean, I don't need an answer to that. I can just tell you, I have a concern that the public doesn't have full view of these. On the EAF form on page 7.
Yes.
It has it in section J, IV, that you guys are not doing any shared parking. Is that a different answer than what you guys have been representing to us before this?
No, there is going to be shared parking.
So the answer on that should be changed?
If I don't know why it did change. It was supposed to be shared parking. There's going to be a blanket easement of shared parking for both the church and Episcopal.
Okay. And then you saw the fire department's comments?
Yes, we did.
Culver Ridge?
Yes, we did.
And you're going to be able to accommodate the hydrant?
That's correct. That has been our intention from the very beginning of this project. We had that conversation with the prior fire marshal and with Carrie very early on.
Okay.
It's been on the site or the utility plan since day one.
And then when I asked about the elevation, the west elevation, actually in your letter that's dated the 20th, number 7 of that says that that will be available to us at the next board meeting. And I'm not sure if that means November or December.
No, it was November. It was for the November 23rd meeting, which is tonight, sir.
So you're going to provide it still tonight?
Well, it's in the, as Scott indicated, it's in the Dropbox. Because the file is so large, it would never be electronically transmitted to you folks without using the Dropbox.
But it's helpful for us to make a decision. All right. And then,
if I might, may I ask, Carrie, I had sent that link to you. Is that anything that you can bring up at this time?
I'm pulling it up as we speak. I do apologize. I was out of the office on Friday. And so if you didn't include Michelle Nichols in the send, to the board secretary. I apologize. So I will, I'm gonna see if I can pull it up right now.
Okay.
And then I have a question while we're doing that. How does that, the lighting on the east elevation work on the, moving that to a 45-degree angle? And I know that Spencer may be able to help me with this too.
What that does is the more you put the angle, the less spillage, back spillage will go onto the property to the east. So the lights are going to be at a 45-degree angle to allow for a reduction. We had to actually compute that out so that it reduces the contour line from moving to the east. It brings it back to the, if you will, to the west. So by manipulating the angle of the luminaire, allows for it to reduce the amount of spillage going back. Okay.
So Alan, I don't have a huge concern with that from a light spillage standpoint, because it's going to be pushing the light towards their building. The only concern I have is that the residents that are in those buildings there are now going to have lights that are tipped up, and so they're going to see the actual light bulb, if you will, or the LEDs, shining at them, rather than a light that's at like a full cutoff position where theoretically nobody sees those LEDs. So doing this helps the neighboring property to the east, which is great, but it has potential to have it shining in the windows of the residential units is all.
I knew you would help me see the light. Yeah, I don't think that that's very beneficial for the folks. There's no way to screen those off on the backside.
House shields on the east side might provide some cutoff there, right?
Right. We should be able to provide some kind of a mechanical cutoff, a shield of some kind that would help that. Yes.
They'll have to be fabricated, but something has to be done with it.
I'm sure. I mean, yeah, I'm sure something could be done.
I'm pretty well set, Mr. Chair, for the moment.
Sure, I think we're waiting for Carrie to pull up the documentation.
Alrighty.
Nothing's
So can
coming.
you all see that on your screens?
Yep. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to, this is the first one I'm going to share, and then there is another file that I can share as well. So this looks like it's.
You want to be into the next file, Terry?
Okay.
This one was just updated, more or less construction set.
Okay. Hang on one second. We'll try sharing one other thing. All right, bear with me.
I wanted to ask about C2 on the EAF. The question was about whether or not there is a comprehensive land use plan that include the site. So I believe that the town comprehensive master plan would mean a yes check mark in that box.
Yes. There should be, yes, because we made reference to it when we did the rezoning, that this type of project fits within the confines of the comprehensive plans to allow for development of lands that were not, that could be of more use, a better land use. So that was one of the arguments that we provided to the town board at the time of rezoning.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just think that the check mark needs to be moved.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Apologies. So is this, I'm sharing this next one. Is this the one that you wanted to share?
There you go.
If you go through, it should be SK2, the next page. There we go. Thank you. So the lowest elevation on the sheet is the one that is the Culver Road elevation.
And can you just walk us through what you've done there?
What we've done is we have added some additional stone from the windowsill area down, the stone material. And as we have done in the rest of the project, we've used different colors and different textures. We have 2 different colored clapboards, and then the areas where the large grill units are for the HVAC units is actually a flat panel. that is painted out to complement with the gray, to go with the red and the other clapboard color, the greenish gray.
And how far does that stone go around the corners?
On that building, it turns and goes all the way around on both ends. So it goes across both ends.
So
If
is
you
there a
take
south
look at- if you take a
elevation
look at- if you
view of
take
that building?
elevation on the right, you'll see that it turns the corner on the orange section, the reddish orange section part, and then it stops there. And it's similar on the south end. If you are on SK1, you'd see where there's a color change is where the stone stops at that point. If you look at the upper left on this sheet.
I don't know if you all can see
Yeah.
my cursor.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
Any other questions at this point?
Did we see the east elevation of the building facing, could you roll back to that if I missed it? The east elevation of the building that will face Culver Road.
It'd be the west elevation facing Culver, not the east.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure we're showing you the right. That's it on the lower left.
Lower left. Okay, so there wasn't any entrances that were added or fake entrances that were added?
No, they were not. Our entrances are on the two ends.
Can somebody just remind me how long that building is, how wide it is?
Give me a minute and I can do that.
Board members, do you want me to continue sharing this screen, or is there something else that you need to see or would like to see up on the shared screen at this point?
Not sure yet, Carrie.
The building along Culver Road is 255 feet.
Oh, it's pretty long. Okay.
But it's also broken up.
But it's very broken up. Yes,
Yeah.
you are correct. It's a long building, but the actual mass, that's the entire wing, the one that is the closest.
No, and I appreciate you guys doing the stone on the water level. That's.
Well, it helps. I mean, we understand that, and we've used it as a textural material in other parts of the building too.
No, it's 160 feet.
Yeah, I think that the concern is the concern that was raised at the workshop meeting last time, where it was a long, expansive building, not to have an identifiable entrance from the street, because the master plan that you just referenced, one of the things that's in there is that the building should have an entrance that's visible from the.
There's a correction. The building is only 140 feet long.
I read the overall of everything.
It's 140 feet long.
Okay.
I thought it was a little long, 240 feet. You got to remember, we're old guys here. We're looking at magnifying glass. Some of these drawings are very small.
What were you saying, Brad?
I was saying that generally we try to make sure that the buildings have an identifiable entrance from the street, because that's one of the things that's called out in the master plan, especially when the building's going to be large and long, because it gives more, at least the sense of permeability of the building from the street, as identified in the master plan. So we had raised that concern at the workshop. It's a long length of building. You're absolutely right. It's broken up with colors and roof lines and, windows. but there's no indication that there's even a fake entrance for a pedestrian from the street.
Part of this would be, there's several reasons. One, because there is no real entrance, it's a little disingenuous to just create one. And secondly, because of access and security control for the property, we have that is basically controlled either from the ends of this wing or from the main entrance, which is set further back off the site at the southeast corner.
I guess I hear what you're saying, but I also think that by consolidating the entrances and exits of the building, you create unsafe spaces because there's not additional eyes on the street. When you have multiple areas for people to come in and out, it gets activity in these other places and makes sure that there are people around. So, you know, that's one of the things that having the visibility, the visible entrance from the street would help achieve. And certainly I understand the building layout may not be conducive to that. And obviously a fake entrance is not ideal, but it is better than nothing.
Do remember there is one on the southwest corner, each end wing of this. And remember, as you are going either up or down Culver Road, you will see doors, entrances. They're actually exits, but you will see those entrances. And we did highlight that area by changing the color. So the projected out area does stand right next to that door on either end.
I don't know. I'm just thinking about what the master plan says.
I understand. No, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think to your point, Brad, you know, understanding that there is an entrance on that, and excuse me, Scott, you just said it and I'm already forgetting the southwest corner. Is that correct?
Correct.
You know, from a master planning standpoint, it would be great if that were somehow shifted to the south wall in the west corner of the south wall, because then you could do an entrance element that at least faced the road and would kind of get us what, you know, the master plan or comprehensive plan are looking for. But again, I understand architectural elements and what's going on with the building plan and things too, but we also have to weigh how it matches with what we're supposed to be looking for too.
On another note, much smaller note, I noticed that the Cleveland Select pears are still on the landscape plan. Now, I certainly understand that they're not fruit-bearing trees, but they are ornamental. And I thought that I had pointed that out at the last thing, that it was less of a concern about fruit-bearing, more of a desire to get native shade-producing trees. So I noticed that they're still on the landscape plan.
Brad, if I can go back to your point for a minute about entrances, it might be possible to make an extension of our canopy awnings that we have on the north and south ends of the west wing, and perhaps enlarge those a little bit visually. I mean, if you're looking for something like that, that is probably doable. I mean, we're almost there now with the canopy we have over the doors on the north and south. And if you're just looking for something that makes it stand out a little more, we could look at something like that. But
I think that that's kind of like what we're looking for, something here in the middle. Obviously, it's probably not feasible for whatever reason to move your main entrance to where we'd like to see it, right, in terms of the master plan. And of course, a fake entrance isn't really a great outcome either. But if there's something that could be done to gussy up some of those doors so that when you look at the building from Culver Road, it you know,
we can do some kind of on a roof expansion across there, maybe an outdoor post or a column to it, something to give it a little more visual weight.
Exactly.
Extending around onto the corner of the west elevation, Scott, am I understanding you correct?
No, what I'd like to do is just stay on the north and the south elevations. The south one is the really predominant one for me. I can extend canopy to the east over the adjacent window. If you're looking at, you need to go to sheet SK1 again. If Jerry could do that, please. and go to the bottom of the page on SK1, right there at the top of the page. There, we have an awning, we have a canopy over that entrance door, but we could expand that to the right and turn that into, visually make it a somewhat more substantial entrance at that point. On the north side, we can do something similar. It might need to be a little more pulled back because that's a fire lane, and we're fairly close to the south end of the existing building at that point.
Are we talking about the door? It's sort of a tan color. It's above where it says.
No, all the way at the other end of the building. Whoever is moving the mouse, if they can go to the left end of that elevation, right there.
Okay.
Right, that door and that canopy above that door could be expanded, taken to the right, and an outdoor column or a slab or something put there, which makes that a more identifiable entrance.
That is facing.
That space, you'd be seeing that northbound on Culver. It's the southwest corner of the project. It's the closest to Culver Road on the south side.
Yeah, that faces 104 really. I mean, I know it'd be extending it a fair amount, but I think for trying to comply more with the master plan, it would be great if that could continue around and create an element that actually showed up on the south end of the west elevation. I think, Brad, that would get a lot more of what you were talking about and trying to get something that, complied a little bit more with an entrance that was visible, in that bottom elevation there that we're looking at on the right-hand corner, if I'm understanding this layout correctly, having something that, and I'm just talking out loud here, but having something that wrapped down that side over the door and around to the front, close to back to that light tan section, would at least give you some sort of element there that would say, hey, there's something here on this corner. You understand what I'm saying?
What if, the area that's between the west elevation building as you're heading north, that area between there and the church, just because I want to muck things up for everybody. Can't we gussy that up a little bit and make that look more like an entrance?
Feet off. I think I'm only about 26 feet off of the existing school. That's just enough width in there for me to meet the fire access requirements. If I push out into that much more than a couple of feet, it's going to create fire access problems.
So that's its only purpose in life, is to be a fire entrance?
That is strictly an egress. Yes, it's part of the egress system of the building. That's all it's there for. It's not meant to be an entrance. It's not meant to be used by residents.
I think what you're saying about extending the entrance or the porch or whatever on that corner is a good idea, but I think it would be really, important about if that's going to come around on the other side and how far that is, because my concern is not the elevation that faces 104, it's the elevation that faces Culver Road. And if you want to come all the way around the corner, then that would be great, but I feel like that's further than you would really want to go. So maybe there's something else that you can do on that west elevation that, would be comparable. It seems like you'd have to come way around the corner to make an impact. That's what I'm looking at here, this west
Right
corner.
here.
Yeah. So, and I don't see any doors, anything really. That's the concern, right? That's the concern.
Brett, I know when they put the senior living up farther towards Seabreeze on Culver Road, there were some doors on the street side elevation that were emergency exits, and we made them put awnings over them to look like entrances, correct? But I'm not seeing.
That's correct, Mike.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that opportunity here, and I think you're on the right track, and I think wrapping that entrance around, but I just don't. It's a long ways, and the way that building is shaped from above, there's a big notch out of it there, like that. The orange or the brick or rust colored end of the building there is in 8-10 feet
Correct.
from the tan part.
Yeah.
Right.
Am I lining these two parts of the building up correctly? Is this on the south elevation, the one side of the corner, and that matches up to this west elevation that's rounding the corner?
Correct.
Right. I'm just making sure that I'm circling the right things as we're talking about it. So if anybody else is viewing from home, they're seeing what you're talking about.
I mean, the other thing that I could suggest is maybe in those areas that are beige, putting some type of like pergola thing that over the windows and out, just something to give it a little bit of, maybe there's no door, but if there was some type of pergola that came out like an awning and with two columns on either side, that at least, I don't know, it wouldn't even have to be that deep. But it gives this frame of maybe there might be a door there that's not really there.
We can take a look at that.
Something.
There just isn't a whole lot of interest on that west elevation at this moment, and that's a part that the public's gonna see.
And I'll say too that, you know, every time we look at these plans, they look, you know, it's so small and it seems okay on the paper. And then when the building gets built, it's bigger than it looks on the paper, and there's a lot more blank wall space than the paper really sort of indicates. And so, you know, I think it looks okay on paper here, but I'm trying to think about it in actual size, and there's going to be some large expanses of vinyl clapboard.
Well, and the thing that you need to keep in mind too, Brad, when you're looking at that, is these are two-dimensional, they're flat, and that always makes it look more massive. We've spent a lot of time and effort to make these not that way by jogging these units in and out and breaking those walls up significantly. I think if you remember that those couple of aerial perspectives we provided to you last time, that we tried to show you that that was the case here. I understand that these are, you know, they're large buildings, but we also have to try and build these things in a cost-efficient way, as you are well aware. And so rather than just a big flat wall, and maybe just a grid of windows, we spend a lot of time jogging these sections in and out to break up that massing. And also keep in mind that the building that is closest to Culver Road is the one that's only two-story.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're just kind of looking for something only on that one elevation.
I understand.
Yeah, I echo your comments, Brad.
Can we do something maybe with the windows to make it a little more interesting?
Well, I would rather look at putting things on the outside skin of the building than changing the windows.
I mean, because it wouldn't be a horrible place to put a couple awnings, because that's facing west, right?
That faces west. As I said, we are willing to take a look at that.
Brad, I want to make sure that your other comment, because I also agree with you, doesn't get lost in the sauce, that the Cleveland Select pear is an ornamental, and we really, really would like to see something native, maybe another maple. I think that'd be really nice in those spots. So basically anything but those ornamentals would be.
Thought I did, but maybe I didn't. Maple it is.
Oh, look, well, see, I'm easy. Look at that.
I'm done.
Hey, how about something on the west elevation? You think you can help me out with that?
I have trouble with the site. Leave it to Scott for the architectural work.
It's worth a shot. Worth a shot.
And Carrie, I know that you sent me the email, or sent everybody the email about the rectory, and that can't be part of our consideration. I just want to make sure from the applicant that it actually is not going to be part of this project at any point.
That is correct. It is not.
It is not part of this project. Correct.
So I just have a quick follow-up question. I think that's sort of piggybacks off what Mr. Richards just said. So putting that piece aside for just a second, there's a handful of upgrade items which I absolutely do not want to lose in any way, shape, or form that are on, or I guess I should say off of the applicant's property based on this subdivision. There's lighting, there's curb cut changes, there's the sidewalk that the applicant was so gracious to change to what we asked for, which are not on the applicant's property. And I just want to make sure, maybe this is a question for our attorney. I just want to make sure that all our I's are dotted and all our T's are crossed on how those get approved, and that we are able to approve them and make sure that they're a required part of this project.
I think, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the applicant has indicated there were going to be cross-access easements in place and shared parking agreement as well in order for the site to work and for the subdivision of land to be granted by this board. And so to the extent that there are modifications happening on the property that would not be part of the housing development portion, that would be handled through easement.
That's correct.
And so
I have a question too about that subsequent construction on the area where the A-frame is, just in terms of seeker. You know, we certainly have a strong presumption that additional development will be taking place there. And I want to make sure that we're going to look at the whole action here, and that those changes need to be included in this seeker, or no?
they wouldn't be, because it would be speculative in nature. We have no idea what would happen in the area that's currently taken by the rectory. So there's no way to look at potential impacts of an action we don't have any information about. So therefore, this seeker is only looking at the proposed development as presented, which is the buildings and the site amenities as shown on the site plan. In the future, if
That's basically told us that they plan to turn that into parking as a subsequent phase.
my understanding is that they're not advancing anything at this time, because the rectory plans have been taken off the table by the property owner selling the parcel to them. And so if the applicant wants to provide that update, when we're doing seeker, we have to look at the action that's known and not speculating. To the extent that in the future, if some modification to land takes place and there's not been seeker to analyze that impact and it requires seeker analysis, then we would have to take that up at that time.
It is. So it's speculative that you're going to put the parking where the A-frame is?
Well, they've testified that they're going to take that house down. They've already told us that. So I just want to make sure from the attorney that we're good, that we have that knowledge, that it's been testified to, and we have no reason to consider it.
I just want to make sure that there's not a concern about segmenting the project.
Correct. There's no seeker consideration given to a pending separate action that may be taken on the church parcel at this time. That's not part of this application here on the applicant's parcel.
And then just for the board's benefit, depending on the size of that structure, future activity it may only be a type 2 action. Do you know what I mean? So
if it's on its own, but if you consider the whole project, then is it still only a type 2?
So right now they're not advancing that as part of this project.
I understand that, right? I just thought that they told us that the future was to remove the A-frame. There was a lot of concern about the A-frame and how that was going to look on the site plan, but then it It's certainly not on the parcel, and so we can't really do a lot of site plan stuff with it. But I just want to make sure that it doesn't impact the seeker with the whole project considered at one time.
So I don't think that it does, and certainly Deputy Attorney can tell me differently.
I would concur. That's not part of the seeker consideration of this application.
Okay, so I think the question's been answered. Unless there's any other outstanding question regarding that, I think we should move to the next order of business. Any other questions regarding that? Okay. So, is there any other questions from the board members?
I just have one more about, I can't remember, is the sidewalks that you guys are putting in, are they pervious or impervious?
Sidewalks are impervious, they're concrete.
But you are removing a lot more asphalt, right?
Yes, we are removing asphalt.
And the asphalt that you're removing will be more than or equal to the concrete that you're putting in?
I would say equal to. Actually, we are putting more concrete in versus what we had as asphalt before. Considerably amount more.
All right. And I'd be the first one to tell you we need sidewalks, so.
You're going to get them. We understood. You're getting them.
You didn't let us down, Alan. Okay. Any other questions? So I believe at this point, Carrie, the public meeting's still open, correct? Or has it ever been opened?
Public hearing has continued to be open. It was open at last meeting, and it was the application was adjourned with the public hearing held open. I don't see anybody currently raising their hand. Michelle can double check to see if any comments have been received during the course of the meeting.
I do not see any comments currently.
Okay, if nobody opposed, I think at this point in time, we could close the public hearing unless there's objections to that. Public hearing's closed. Next order of business, I think then is, should we not get a review of the seeker? Carrie, would you take us through that?
Certainly happy to do that. Bear with me, I'm just gonna. So this is an unlisted action under seeker. Bear with me for a moment. Unlisted action under seeker. The proposed development of the project, when we look at the potential impacts, we look at a couple of the key or critical areas would be impact to community character, impact to land, impact on community resources, and impact to traffic. So I'm happy to take you through those. And I'm sorry, I apologize, my technology is not cooperating with me. So the proposed development is to allow for 74 units of senior housing on or in close proximity to a church campus. It's in close proximity to other, this is located along a corridor, primary corridor, where our comprehensive plan has indicated that senior housing is appropriate. And so from a community character and land use perspective, this is consistent with the comprehensive master plan and therefore not deemed to be a large or moderate impact. Looking at the development, the alteration of land, it is going to be converting some portions of what is now currently undeveloped land and providing build out. It will be subject to a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which will help to mitigate any potential impacts associated with disturbance of land. Soil and erosion control measures will be in place before, during the construction, and the site will have to maintain balance in order to get approval of the SWIP and be in conformance with New York State regulations. So from that perspective, any potential impacts can be mitigated through that process. In looking at traffic, the Monroe County DOT reviewed this application and determined that no traffic impact study was warranted based on the anticipated ITE trip generation for a development of this nature. The Monroe County DOT was asked to look at the site again from a traffic perspective in consideration of neighboring or nearby redevelopment that's been proposed up the road along Culver Road, and DOT confirmed again that no further study was needed with respect to this project. And that the
leaving.
Oh, Michelle, you're not muted, just so you know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So from a secret perspective, we're not anticipating any large or moderate impacts. In looking at a potential impact to community resources, this will increase the number of housing units in the town. Senior development will not generate any impact to local schools, and the town's community and utility resources are sufficient to meet the demand of this development type. And so no larger impacts were anticipated in that regard either. In considering the potential environmental impacts of the project, we are recommending a negative declaration for the purposes of seeker.
Thank you, Carrie.
Okay.
Does the board have any questions regarding any of that?
No, they'll make the corrections where they were pointed out before it gets filed.
Yes, we'll ask for the updated part 1 so that it's included as part of the full and complete record.
So I just have a question about the SWIP and town engineer comments and so on. Do we have anything from the town engineer? I can't find anything in my file from the town engineer.
I'll point to Michelle. I believe it was reviewed. The SWIP is generally reviewed in advance of the construction, then in advance of the permit being issued. And Aaron McGee from Department of Public Works is the one who monitors all active and pending and active SWIPs in the town. So she's the primary contact. I do believe that there were comments from the town engineer that were provided. Michelle, and let me know if
I believe there was as well. I just can't. I'm trying to maneuver here.
And they will be communicated with Erin McGee as well, so that she's aware of any issues or concerns as it relates to the SWIP.
I guess I was just more concerned that with a 3.1 acre disturbance project, that the SWIP might have requirements on the actual physical construction layout, and I understand that this process, the way that we do it, we often have the SWIP come in later, but there's not a whole lot of space here for stormwater management type stuff, and we've got steep slopes and so on. So I guess I was just concerned and wondering, if the town engineer had any comment or anything on that. I couldn't find town engineer comments.
They were received back on November 9th. So I'm just trying to find my emails here, guys.
Michelle, if you find them, we have not received them. We've never received them.
I will forward them to you. I sent them to the board, planning board, on November 9th,
Okay, we never
along
received-
with the Monroe County DOT. Let me forward this,
Appreciate it.
to Carrie and Nate.
We've got
Let me make sure I'm
conservation
on.
board comments.
Yeah, is there an E-Pod in this also?
Yes. Slopes and water course.
And Spencer, I second your curiosity in post-construction stormwater management.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's the way that it's often done here. I can tell you it's not the way that it's done in most other towns. And that's because often the stormwater, design has major impacts on the physical layout of the site and the construction and so on. So I'm just concerned that this is a relatively well-developed site here. And the non-developed areas don't yield much for stormwater management. So I'm just,
If I could add to that, your question, we do provide for stormwater management on the project site for water quality purposes. If you recall, when I made the presentation last meeting, part of the site, because of the existing storm sewer system that handles the church property, will directly discharge, but the new developed areas will all be stormwater managed, and we do have enough space to allay your concerns that we won't have to change the project with the stormwater management facility that we were providing on the southern end of the project. It's still in the flat area, if you will. So I don't think that would be a major concern. And as Carrie indicated, that's usually something that's done as we go through the process of the various different departments for their final sign-offs as well.
right. And that's quality control, is my understanding. And I know this is a redevelopment and that yields much different stormwater requirements. I guess I was thinking more of a quantity.
We are making for the stormwater management facility we're providing for is both for quality and stormwater management as far as quantity. So we are actually also holding back the water as normally would be done. It just happens to be in a subsurface manner instead of a surface pond area.
Hey Spencer, were you at the last workshop? I believe we received the Labella comments at the last workshop.
That would explain it. Thank you.
I just forwarded them as well, Spencer.
I've got them open. I'm reading through them right now. Thank you, Michelle.
My apologies.
In this digital age, I forgot that paper existed.
It's not an easy task keeping these documents forwarded.
No, it isn't.
So just to clarify, with our applicants, I believe Michelle just forwarded these to you guys as well, but you have not seen these, and I'm reading through them now, and I'm seeing some things that look like they're probably not addressed on the site plan as it stands.
It could very well be.
All this. Okay. All this and all this. Chick-fil-A. And we ain't got there yet.
Hey, Mary, just so you know, you're not muted right now.
Okay.
Noted.
So the applicant was able to address or will address these engineer comments?
We will address them, yes.
just as a point of order, I know that I provided the overview of seeker. I don't know that the board's done anything with that information, just in case. I know that the question came up. I just wanted to, if there's any other questions related to seeker, please let me know.
So I guess in my mind, how do we handle these engineer comments for this meeting? Since the applicant has not read them.
Well, I mean, I'm skimming through them right now. I mean, there's 6 or 7 pages of comments here. So, I mean, these aren't just simple little minor, you know, notations.
Yeah, I agree. I just skimmed it too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the applicant needs time, and that's not their issue here tonight. But I don't know. My standpoint is, you know, preliminary approvals may be on the table, but I don't see how final, from my standpoint, could be approved tonight from the way I look at it, just because there's so many potential things here that still need to be looked at.
Yeah, after going through looking at the engineering report comments on the second to the last page, it's bringing up more issues now that I didn't see before.
It doesn't sound as though we're terribly comfortable moving on without ample time to peruse all these.
Yeah, and I think ample time for the applicant to also review, approve, and or review and make modifications as necessary.
Yeah. So applicants, it's the first time you're seeing this report. I think we believe you're going to want time to review this and respond.
If I might add or request from the board that one board member indicated preliminary approval, we would certainly, you can make it a condition, preliminary approval, that we need to address the engineer's comments. Not knowing what they are, I can understand and appreciate not granting final approval, but certainly we'd like to get through at least the preliminary approval. I think we've addressed a lot of the board's concerns and comments. I'm sure a lot of these are technical items that the town engineer has raised, generally is, which we can work through with them. Okay. And certainly with the subdivision, I see no reason why this board cannot act on the subdivision as well as seeker.
I would certainly have no issue discussing preliminary. I have no problem with subdivision discussions tonight. I would like, I'm going to ask that I put Nate on the spot for one quick second and just, I guess, clarify on the subdivision that we have or there's already sufficient information on reciprocal easements or cross-access easements or whatever is required so that the construction that's off the property is able to be included in our approval and something that we can mandate is completed. And then I would have no problem talking about subdivision.
I cannot speak to the full spectrum of what's been received, and I would defer to Carrie as far as the cross easements are concerned, and what's required under the subdivision regulations.
So typically the subdivision approval, when it does require easements to be filed, that's typically something that the board will have one of the conditions that that is subject to the town attorney's approval prior to filing. So as part of the planning board issues an approval for subdivision of land, At that point, the applicant prepares Mylars that meet Monroe County real properties requirements to allow it to be filed. And at that time, those easements would also be prepared in conjunction with the actual Mylar plan showing the subdivision of land. At that time, the easement that's being prepared for filing would be reviewed by the town engineer to ensure that's sufficient and it's legally binding. So it's generally the process that we follow for a subdivision, whether it or not it includes easement. It's reviewed at the time right before it's filed.
That's correct.
And I'm sorry to keep dwelling on this just because in my head this is a semantics issue maybe, but I just want to make sure, you know, I'm very used to reciprocal access easements and so on. And that's more for parking on other sites and so on and so forth, where it's not really what I'll consider somewhat major upgrades or changes to things that are off the property. So those easements allow for the construction to happen off of the property and for us to approve that, correct?
There will be specific easements for the sanitary sewer. There will be a specific easement for the parking that's being constructed on the church's property on the south end. And then the access easements relative to ingress and egress will most probably be a blanket easement. So there will be descriptions for all of those easements that we will be filing. Our attorneys and the town attorneys will agree upon. And those will be filed and along with the plan that's going to go to the Monroe County Clerk's Office.
And that will cover the curb cut closure, the new sidewalk, the lighting, and the parking upgrades, correct? Is my understanding that correct, Mr. Perone?
Yes, that's correct. I forgot about the sidewalk. We also have to have a description for the sidewalk. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
go ahead,
am I on mute? I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Mike. Did you have a question before I move forward here?
my question more of a request is, the town of Arundequoit has a SWIP in hand, right? This project, I'm looking for Carrie to nod or shake her head no.
I'm actually going to look to Michelle to see if it was received.
No.
No.
No SWIP submitted yet. Early on.
Have you,
Go ahead.
have you submitted any post-construction stormwater plans? I mean, I know we've got drawings, but is there any plan? Is that in the engineering report?
There is an engineering report, but the stormwater SWIP, the SWIP itself has not been submitted.
Okay.
Barry and I had discussion that would be something after these meetings so that we can then move forward with the technical aspects of the project. So the SWIP is being processed now and prepared right now as we speak, but it has not been submitted, and it's really more of it's a SWIP dealing with the town engineer and DEC, quite frankly.
So here's my concern, and Mike, I think this is possibly where you were headed here. But to specifically read one of the comments, and I know this is sort of unfair for Mr. Perone, but to specifically read one of the comments in our town engineer's response letter, it says, engineer report figure 2 shows that only the 10-year storm is attenuated. The project will cause considerable increase in the peak flow rate in the 100-year storm. So my concern with not having the SWIP information coupled with a lot of these engineer comments that I'm seeing is I am concerned that there may be changes to the site plan based on a number of these comments that I'm reading here. So that's my concern with seeker. It's solely around stormwater for me. And I'm stuck here, I think, with those comments.
I am stuck you, or I'm stuck you on this one. When you're dealing with something like this with the stormwater management facility, yes, we have to take into account the 10 from a simple stormwater design for the site. It's a 10-year storm. You're talking about the stormwater management facility where they take into account the 100-year. That's what we're talking about. We will be doing in the SWIP. In other words, we will be covering it. I can only assure you that the area in which we've outlined so far in our initial computations has been that we will be able to provide for meeting those requirements and not changing the site itself. In other words, the parking area, the building locations, that'll all remain as it is. It's just the area, we'll call it to the south, where we have on the utility drawing shown where the subsurface stormwater management facility will be taken into account to handle what the town engineer is talking about the 25, 50, 100-year storm. Okay, that's what I'm trying to convey to you. From our perspective, I believe with comfort that preliminary certainly can be granted this evening on that basis. The facility will be located. We can tell you where it's going to be located. It'll be located on the south lawn area, if you will, south of the parking lot, to accommodate that requirement that the town engineer is making, alluding to.
Mr. Perone, my rebuttal to that is the engineer's comment, and again, not fair to you, number 2, that says that the receiving water body is a 303D stream and has water quality impairments. You've not provided a water quality calculation. And I'm looking at town code 235-84 that says part of review and approval of preliminary site plans. Number 6, the adequacy of stormwater and drainage facilities. So I do not know that your stormwater facility post-construction is going to be adequate to address the 303D stream water quality impairments. Without that information, I'm not comfortable even granting you a preliminary site plan approval.
Well, I'm only going based on what we were given to how to proceed with this project. So if that's the case of the board, so be it. But I can assure you that we have to make that requirement. So if whether you grant preliminary or not, I have to make that requirement.
Well, and I'm perfectly aware of that. I'm not comfortable granting any approvals without seeing it first. That's my job on this end.
You personally or the town engineer?
I would like to see it because it's under town code. It's part of my job.
I'd like 2 things I'd like to just interject with quickly. One is I'd like to apologize to the applicant. Generally, our town engineer, when providing comments to the town, will also include the applicant directly and communicate those findings directly. That did not happen this past month. I do apologize. There was actually a gap in us receiving those comments from the town engineer, which has been addressed with personnel at Labella. And won't happen again in the future. So I do apologize for that.
Harry, when did you receive those?
We received the comments from Labella on the 9th, I believe, of this month, of November 9th.
I just would like to make the point we might have been able to respond to some of these things tonight had we had them at that time.
That's understood. That's a fair comment, and on behalf of our town engineer and ourselves, I'll apologize that you didn't receive those when we did. Generally, the applicant engineer is copied and communicated with directly by our engineer so that the engineers may talk amongst themselves, especially as it relates to the technical aspects. With respect to seeker, the determination of significance was made based on the understanding that all projects are required to meet the New York State stormwater prevention, pollution prevention planning requirements. And so no project can go forward. A SWIP would not be approved, and without an approved SWIP, no building permit would be issued. And so by virtue of meeting the state's regulations, the town knows that that's going to be a requirement. So that's why in preparing the seeker analysis, noting that requirement provides the blanket coverage for any required mitigation of any site alterations that might be needed. So from a seeker standpoint, town staff felt confident in moving forward. The not recognizing that there may be some site changes that result from that, any stormwater issues that have to be addressed as part of the site planning effort.
That's why I would like to piggyback on what Carrie just said to the board to consider. Like, by you allowing at least preliminary approval, we know we have to meet that. And we can't get final without meeting it. So with preliminary approval, it allows us to go a little bit farther forward so that we can get all of those questions answered. So I don't see the problem with the board not being allowed to at least do preliminary, because I think we've ironed out all of the other things that have been required other than the stormwater quality and quantity, which we have to meet. The project cannot go forward without having those items addressed. So from a preliminary standpoint, it allows us to move one step further closer together so that we can now have other agencies starting to look at the plan, because they won't even consider looking at the plan, all the other agencies we have to go through without having preliminary approval. So I'm imploring the board to at least consider that.
I'd like
So-
to ask, can I ask,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, Bernie, can I ask another staff question and maybe another question for our town attorney here? Can we grant preliminary site plan approval without addressing seeker, or does seeker have to be addressed first?
Seeker has to be addressed first. You can't render a decision without satisfying seeker prior to a decision. What I will say is you can, if anything, in granting the preliminary approval, if new information comes to light that would render the seeker determination of significance, in other words, an issue wasn't examined based on new information presented between preliminary and final, the seeker would need to be amended. Do you know what I'm saying? So you'd have to amend the seeker determination of significance to consider any new information or changes that take place between preliminary and final. And certainly, Nate, you can jump in if that's not accurate, but my understanding is that seeker evaluation takes place for a decision. If anything happens subsequent to that decision, where all the issues or factors were not fully examined, then you have to look at seeker again. You have to reopen it.
Correct. We're not fully examined, or there's been a material change in any of those factors, and it could be re-examined. And agreed, a preliminary site plan approval would fall under the category of a decision that requires seeker to have been a determination to have been made prior to granting that approval.
Okay, Carrie, could you reread your specific section when you discuss your seeker findings regarding stormwater, please?
I'm happy to do that. Let me just pull it up on my screen really quick. And bear with me I'm so sorry. My computer's being a little bit glitchy and skipping past the things I'm trying to get to. And I do apologize for the delay. It's dual screen is not working so well here. I do apologize. I am very sorry. Forgive me for one moment. And I'm so sorry. This is taking a really long time for my computer to open. The Oh, Lord. I am very sorry. And and I apologize, my computer is having a problem. It keeps on delaying with opening up the file because I'm accessing it via shared screen, and apparently that and Zoom is too much for my laptop. So the statement in the EAF narrative references the fact that the site plan includes stormwater, includes areas where green space is being retained and or introducing new areas of green space as part of the development site. In addition, the project would need to comply with all of the New York State regulations as it relates to the preparation of a stormwater pollution prevention plan and any mitigation required for erosion control and stormwater management would be handled through that process and in conformance with New York State regulations. And I apologize for that very long delay.
Okay, thanks. Did we lose Mr. Chairman?
Oh,
No,
he's on.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm here. So I guess the question before the board is, and I've heard different comments, is can we move forward with seeker and then, determine if we can do a preliminary? I just want to hear the comments from the board before we move forward. So hearing,
I guess my, my concerns have been voiced. Unfortunately, the applicant not receiving the town engineer's comments are a problem, I think. I don't know. I guess it's a what's the temperature of everybody else on the comments regarding, seeker and the stormwater stuff.
sure. Why don't we just go through the board? Mary, your comments?
I really have none. I'm more or less learning this part of it.
Okay. Mr. Palermo?
At this stage of the game, I don't think we have the right information to move along. tonight. I don't know what route to take, but it does seem we're stuck. I can't
I
get.
hear you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was done.
Okay. Mr. Huber?
I'm going to agree with Mr. Palermo. Looking through the engineer's comments, there's some in there that might be technical and easy to, take care of. But if they try to take care of them, one of them, and for one reason one reason or another doesn't work out the way that they thought it might, it may have a impact on the site plan, and I don't know to what degree that would affect it, and for that reason, I'd rather wait.
Mr. Eveland, I take it your position probably hasn't changed. Is that correct?
Hasn't changed. I do want to mention, though, that the Conservation Board has also brought up stormwater treatment facilities in their letter. So that's a big thing for me.
Okay. Mr. Reed, heard your comments.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
Not hear the end of what he said.
Oh, can you please repeat that, Mr. Eveland?
Yeah, I
About
said
the Conservation Board.
Yeah, the Conservation Board did make a note, number 3 in their letter, November 5th, 2020 was the date on it, that they also brought up stormwater treatment facilities on the site. So the fact that the town engineer and our Conservation Board, who are both the professionals in this capacity, have concerns also gives me concern.
You're cutting in and out, Mike. I'm not sure what's going on.
Oh no. Is that any better?
It's better. You just
Okay.
your very last wrap up. If you could just repeat.
Just it's an issue for me. That's all. The stormwater stuff is an issue for me. I don't feel like I have the information.
Okay. I think what I heard you say is the Conservation Board voiced the same concern in their memo dated November 5th.
Correct. Briefly, and I would like to reach out to the Conservation Board again to get more detail into their concerns. To be honest.
Okay. So I guess, Mr. Perone, I think you've gotten the apologies from the town that the fact that you didn't get all the information. We're sort of in a situation that if we brought this forward, it probably wouldn't be what you're looking for at this point in time. So I think it would be prudent with your concurrence if we table this and get this addressed and addressed at the next workshop, make sure it's fully addressed, and then bring this before the board in December. So I need to understand I know your appeal, but I need to understand your impacts at this point.
Well, the impacts are as follows. We've gone through a pretty lengthy process with this already, and our client, and we'll need to discuss this with our client. But I would like to implore that the comments are addressed, not knowing all of the comments, that at the workshop meeting, if the board can find themselves, I know in the previous application, you weren't inclined to provide approvals at a workshop session, but I would hope that you might, because of the extenuating circumstances that were before us this evening, that you might consider that we could in fact get a preliminary approval at least by the 14th of December.
I think we determined with the previous ask for the similar thing that's not something that we normally do. However, considering the circumstances here, I can talk it over with the staff. There have been occasions where we've called a special meeting to address a specific topic. So I'll have to circle back with Carrie and so forth. I can't promise that at this point, but you can make that appeal and we can contemplate that.
I would like to do that because it's still our goal that we would like to construct this project this coming year. And it's unfortunate that we're at this point, but I would appreciate your consideration on that.
Yeah, and as you said, Mr. Chairman, we have done that once or twice. I would like to add that, in order to do that, we just need to get updated information with ample enough time that we can review it and potentially get some town engineer comments and so on. But we would need to see.
Yeah, all the work has to be done. Yeah, all the work has to be done. I'm just saying, if that expedites the process at all, that could be considered. It's not something that we normally do, but we have done. in the
I
past.
think maybe we need to be clear about the rationale for that, in part being because the applicant did not get the comments from the town engineer, because we were not going to make that exception for the other applicant. And just because they're a smaller applicant doesn't mean that they shouldn't get the same types of things that we're going to do for a larger applicant. But the difference here is the town engineer comments were missing. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. That's why I brought up, we could hold you know, they could request that we hold a special meeting. And Carrie and Nate, please speak up, but we have done this a couple times before.
We have, the only thing I want to check is the publication schedule with the Arundequoit Post is our primary publisher or only publisher of public notices. So I just want to be sure that we can meet that requirement. And with the holidays, the schedule is a little bit off. So I don't want to overpromise. If I want to just verify with legal ad requirements if we can meet that requirement.
But if the public hearing, Carrie, is closed, what would the notification have to be to the planning, to the public?
It's to host a special meeting. So it's and it's essentially holding a planning board, a special planning board meeting on the night of in concurrence with the night that a workshop meeting is conducted. So technically it's conducting a separate meeting to be able to handle that application. So I will review it with the town attorney to make sure that we follow the right process there.
Appreciate it.
It's the most I can offer at this point is to give that consideration. And if there's any reason to move it all up, I'm sure between the staff and the board, we'll figure out a way we can do it.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair, can I make a motion on
Yes, please.
2020-10-2 that we adjourn this case until the December meeting?
I'll second that motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? No abstain, no absent. It passes. Thank you for your patience as we work through this. We're looking for this to be a successful project, and you've put a lot of work into it. Thank you. Carrie, before we proceed to the next one, I really need a 5-minute break.
Okay.
If that's okay with the board. Anybody object?
No. Do it.
Let's take 5 minutes. We'll reconvene at 10:10. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
What'd you do? Did you fix Clay? Online.
Just a couple.
What? Huh? Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
What comes next, Clay?
Somebody screwed up.
Hey, Mary, you may want to mute during the break.
Okay.
Hi, Carrie, are we all back?
It looks like the board's, we're waiting for the rest of the board to either come on back. No, they and
Hi,
our
Carrie.
town attorney and Michelle, our board secretary.
Are we all back now?
Brad,
I just want to make sure Michelle is back on.
Carrie, before we start, my family tells me as they were watching, I guess there's a lot of feedback on the cable channel 1303,
Oh,
or that was their excuse that they didn't have to watch tonight, one of the two.
okay. Well, I can, I'll ask.
That's a common problem with all the meetings. I think it has something to do with the way the Zoom interacts with the transmission out.
Oh, okay, so there's a lot of feedback. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a technical
it's
issue.
not-
I can, I'll certainly share that feedback or that thought, that comment with our technical folks, but that's beyond my capabilities.
Okay. And at what point do we start getting overtime pay? I was just curious.
it's 6 o'clock.
I'm gonna have to send you guys like the midnight cookie place deliveries.
Can we do the last two together?
Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, case number PB 2020-08-2. Upon the matter of request by BME Associates acting as agent for Ridge Portland Rochester LLC and 1267 East Ridge Road Holding LLC for preliminary final site plan approval for the redevelopment of an existing 11,000 square foot building and construction of a new 2,500 square foot building with site related improvements on premises 1233 and 1267 East Ridge Road in an M manufacturing district.
The applicant, hopefully back also, Gary?
Yes, I will allow them, I will be inviting them right now.
Good evening. Hi, Carrie. This is Matt Lester. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Matt? So Matt,
Good.
you, Peter Vars, Mike, and I've also, I believe I'm adding Amy Dake as well in case there's any traffic related questions. I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but here we all are.
And please remember to state your name and your address before you start, every person that speaks. Thank you.
Great. So good evening, Peter Vars with BME Associates out of Fairport, New York. So just to get you up to date, and part of this being the public meeting, we'll probably repeat some things we covered at the workshop 2 weeks ago. But as Michelle noted, we're hope tonight to gain the preliminary and final site plan approval for the redevelopment of the two properties at 1233 and 1267 East Ridge Road. You know, the big thing that had to occur since our appearances back in September was variances were obtained from the zoning board for the impervious lot cover, for the parking and the setbacks. Those were granted on September 14th. And then the other matter was the traffic study that was prepared by SRF Associates, that was submitted to Monroe County DOT and to the town engineer. The report has been reviewed and there have been subsequent meetings with town staff, the town engineer and the county regarding the findings of that report and also its correlation or coordination, I should say, with the Chick-fil-A application located across the street or across Portland Avenue. As it pertains to this project, the two important things that came out of that traffic study was the Ridge Road access location that did result in a site plan revision such that we moved the curb cut to what was known as the existing middle curb cut. So it moved it about 65 feet to the east. That was as a result of the queue analysis for cars that would be westbound on East Ridge Road as they are queuing at the Portland Avenue intersection. And also that driveway entrance lines up with the Aspen Dental driveway located on the north side of East Ridge Road. So that was one of the recommendations from the county. The site plan was updated to reflect that. Those plans were submitted back to you back in the first part of November. Does not affect the site plan layout at all based on what you have been seeing. The other component of the traffic study was with regards to the Portland Avenue access. We discussed this in quite a lot of detail at the workshop session 2 weeks ago as it pertains to the East Ridge Road project 1233. Is the county recommends that the Portland Avenue access for this property would be closed and a cross access agreement be reached with the Rochester Regional Health property to the south, and therefore share their driveway out onto Portland Avenue because the Chick-fil-A project would result in a signal light being installed at that driveway location at what would become a four-way signalized intersection. As I said, we discussed that in a lot of detail 2 weeks ago. The county did note if cross access could not be obtained, that the Portland Avenue access serving 1233 East Ridge Road could remain. However, the applicant has to agree to provide cross access and utilize cross access if and when it does become available. So what's happened in 2 weeks? First of all, we have noted on our plans that the applicant agrees to that, and I believe he even stated that at the workshop session 2 weeks ago, that he will participate in cross access. We also noted on the site plan there is a detail for how the Portland Avenue access would be closed off, and the property would access the regional Rochester Regional Health property to the south, and how that approach to the Portland Avenue access would be striped. But also what has occurred is the applicant, as he said he would do, and I'll let Matt chime in on this if he needs any clarification, but they did reach out to Rochester Regional Health, and I believe correspondence was provided to Carrie that basically the owner to the south really has no interest in wanting to provide cross access to the property to the north. They have concerns with what, in their words, not ours, of retail traffic coming through their parking lot because of the current parking demand they have on their property. So at the current point, it looks like we would continue to have to use the Portland Avenue access onto the property until such time that the Rochester Regional Health property were to come in for any type of review or permits from the town of Arundecoit. A couple of other quick housekeeping items. We did provide an updated set of plans a few days ago, last Friday, because of comments we received from the workshop. The primary one being is as we did denote a defined pedestrian path between the two buildings on the property. We did eliminate one of the parking spaces up on by the Rachel's buildings and has a designated sidewalk through there. So between sidewalks through the islands and crosswalks, there is a defined pedestrian path now internal to the site between the two buildings. We again point out to you note number 10 on the lighting plan that calls for the lights to turn on 1 hour before the opening of business and turning off 2 hours after the last business closes. So that, and then the last thing we did acknowledge at the workshop meeting, because there was a lot of discussion about the signage and monument signs versus pylon signs, is that we agreed that all of the signage would come in as a separate application once the tenants are identified and the sign package is prepared. So that's kind of our summary of the workshop session outcome, the traffic, and what's occurred in the last 2 weeks. As Matt Lester's here as the owner applicant, and Amy Dake's also here for SRF Associates if you have any questions for us at this time.
So the chair doesn't have any questions. The board, any concerns, questions regarding things talked at the workshop? Have they all been addressed? How have they been addressed?
I have a question, and I want to clarify something because I was trying to listen there and read my plans. And did you say that Rochester Regional Health did not want to participate in a cross-access agreement?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, I need to chew on that for a second. The second one is you said that the lighting plan denotes that you're going to turn the lights on only 1 hour early or 2 hours after closing. Do all of the businesses close at the same time?
Right now, only not all the tenants are known, not all the spaces are leased.
Okay.
So there are, and the two restaurants, excuse me, the two restaurant tenants that are identified, we're not sure what their hours are, if they are synchronized, for lack of a better term.
Sure. Okay. Oh, and I see you got parking lot lighting. Okay. I guess one of my things is if there's internally lit signs on the buildings, business signs, that those adhere to the same lighting schedule, but are business specific. So if one business is open different hours, then that one adheres to that using their business hours. You know what I mean? But that any building mounted signage also adheres to that. Am I making sense, or am I
No,
10:23
yep.
p.m.?
Nope, I understand.
Okay.
Would it
Any
also
other
be-
comments? Oh,
Would it
go ahead.
also
I'm
be satisfactory? This is Matt Lester. I'm the applicant.
Yep.
Would it
Please
also
state
be
your
satis-
address too. Please state your address too.
Yeah, sure. 1242 Lake Road in Webster.
Thank you.
Would it be okay to have the last lit sign be the indicator for all the signs to turn off at the same time? Sometimes it looks like there's bulbs out when some signs are on and off, just from a continuity standpoint.
Oh, because you're going to have two tenants in one of these.
They'll be, yeah, Rachel's is kind of independent from the former Rite Aid, which will have multiple tenants. But what we could do is turn all of the lights off at the last, last lit sign to go off, if that makes sense.
Are you comfortable treating Rachel's separately?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Then do the business with multiple tenants, and as long as the board agrees with this, I would do the business, the building with multiple tenants. Use whatever the last tenant to close. Turn off the signs. I'm looking for the board.
Yeah,
and then
I think it's a good idea.
And then Rachel treat separately.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Is there an outside seating area for, I'm just going to call it the old Rite Aid building?
Yes, there is.
Yes, at the northwest corner where if you see where the sidewalk crosswalk comes in off the corner into the corner of the building, there is an outside seating area shown there. It's noted on the site plans. The site plan shows a couple of tables. It notes it's to be fenced in also.
Right. That was my recollection. It was there was a fence there, right?
Yep, it plans calls for a 3-foot high black aluminum rail fence.
What's the curb cut height there?
The curb would likely probably be a 6-inch reveal.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you for all your hard work with this.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just ask one clarifying question? You said that you did put the connection between the buildings, the walkway. Could you point out where that is? Or did I misunderstand what you said?
No. Do you want to share a screen, Carrie, or how do you want to do this?
Oh, yeah, hold on one moment. I can certainly do that.
All right.
While she does that, I want to point out that the pedestrian access was included, but we had talked about having those pedestrian pathways created out of a contrasting material like stamped and dyed asphalt or concrete. Am I on mute?
No, I heard you. I was just waiting. Yes, but and it will be a stamped and dyed asphalt.
Okay, because I don't think that was, I may have missed it, but I thought that in the plans, it said that they would be painted.
Plans, at least that I have as the most recent ones, currently show the crosswalk that goes from the former Rite Aid building across the Rite Aid drive-through over to the curbed island at Rachel's and then across the curb cut into the Rachel's parking lot. Those are both currently called out as white striping. The one on the northwest corner does call out as asphalt or colored or stamped or something asphalt.
Colored concrete. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can share.
Yep.
Are you asking for the color rendering to be shared?
Well, or if you just want to share the screen, I have it up on my screen.
Oh, I'm going to let you share your screen.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
That's okay.
That's a much easier request. Bear with me. In theory, it's a much easier request. Here. I apologize. Having joint access to my laptop and Zoom at the same time is apparently more than this little machine can take. So
I have another question.
You should be able to share. Are you able to share right now?
No, I'm not getting the commands to do that.
Okay.
So the question was just what is the pedestrian path, right? That was what was asked.
Yeah, that was I think what the chair was looking for clarification of that route.
So that was the path, Bernie, that goes from the northeast corner of the former Rite Aid building, sort of diagonally in a northeast direction up to a curbed island area. Then there's a raised sidewalk, and then there's a crosswalk across the.
There we go.
There you are.
So
yeah,
right. So the addition
that
we
rendering.
made,
Okay.
yeah, was the former plan just showed the striped crosswalk from the Rite Aid building to the first island, and that's where it stopped. What we did is we added the crosswalk across the next parking aisle and added the sidewalk and an island at the northwest corner of the Rachel's building. So it completes the pedestrian route between the two buildings.
So for clarity, that's just striping or?
What that calls for now is for the asphalt crossings is a striped crosswalk, yes.
So I'm just checking with the board. Is that what you asked for at the workshop?
We had asked for a contrasting material, either concrete or stamped and dyed asphalt, especially because it's going across the drive-through.
But again, remember the drive-through is not active.
Well, not now.
And so, I mean, you know,
Well, and honestly, it doesn't really matter. We've been pretty much, this has been a pretty standard request out of all of the pedestrian crossings and parking lot as of any application of late. I do have a question about the access to Portland Avenue and the traffic. So now that that is, I guess, has to stay put, I was wondering if somebody could talk us through the letter grades that would be assigned to those traffic movements now that we have to use this exit.
I guess I would defer to Amy on that.
Yep, I'm just pulling it out of my report. Hang on. Okay, so the Portland Ave driveway is projected to operate at level of service C in the midday peak, lunchtime peak, and level of service B during the evening peak.
And what is the worst, like what's the worst movement that a person would have to make? Is it a left-hand?
Yeah, it would be a left coming out of the driveway, trying to turn left to go south on Portland.
And what letter did that movement get?
It's a level of service C with 15 seconds of delay.
Okay. Is there anything else that came across the term movements that was less than C?
No, not at that driveway.
There's no prohibition for a southbound turn out of that driveway though, right?
There is not.
Okay. Public hearing still open, Bernie?
Any other questions or from the board? I was just looking at the plans. Anything else? Nothing? I guess with that, if nobody objects, we move to, well, let me go back. I don't think we closed on the stamped concrete. I didn't hear from the applicant that he was willing to consider a different option there.
So, well, what we can do is, right, we can do a dyed asphalt across there, just to differentiate it from, I guess, the regular drive aisles.
Okay. The board, any concerns with that? Feel it meets the request? I just like to make sure we close it down before we move on.
Sure, Mr. Huber will help them.
I'm waiting to hear.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, great. So pending that, I think we should open up the public hearing. Carrie, anybody waiting to speak to this project?
I don't see any show of hands for this. Michelle, do you see anybody emailing currently to the planning board?
I do not.
Okay. No objections. We'll close the public hearing. Any other comments from the board? We already did seeker. So are we?
Seeker was just, there's no seeker. This is actually, for the
Type 2
purposes
action.
of seeker, a type 2 action.
Yeah, we already classified that at the
Oh,
August
okay,
24th
sorry.
meeting is what my paperwork says. August 24th. Okay, so having said that, are we prepared to make a motion?
I can start that if you'd like, that on PB 2020-08-2, that we approve the application as amended and presented to us, dated November 17th, with the following conditions, that the, and Brad, why don't you just help me with this?
That the pedestrian crosswalks between the two buildings be constructed from either, we'll leave it open to them, concrete or dyed asphalt or dyed and stamped asphalt.
That the drive-through remain closed until further board action. That the lights on the Rachel's building will act independently from the Rite Aid building for opening and closing times. And that all closings, all lights will be extinguished 2 hours after closing and allowed to be relit 1 hour before closing on respective buildings.
1 hour before opening,
Yes. What did I say?
1 hour
Closing.
before closing.
Yeah, because we're getting close to my bedtime.
It's okay, I wrote it right.
I'd
For
like to
change.
also, you guys, I also had in my notes about all signage be submitted for PB approval under a separate application.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'll accept that amendment, Michelle. That one's a good one.
Thank you.
I would second that.
Okay, all those in, and this is for final site approval.
Yes.
All those approved, I'm sorry, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nay?
No.
No abstain, no absence. It passes. Much luck on this project and look forward to seeing the success. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
everybody.
You ready for the last case?
This is Rite Aid building.
So, 1 second, Carrie. Let me catch up here, Michelle. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Case number PB 2020-08-3. Upon the matter of request by Bowler Engineering, acting as agent for Chick-fil-A Inc. for preliminary final site plan approval to redevelop an existing parcel into a new restaurant with outdoor dining and drive-through on premises 1115 East Ridge Road in an M manufacturing district.
Thank you. Please let us know, Carrie, when the applicant is ready, and please, applicant, please remember anybody who speaks to state your name and your address.
The applicant's engineer and the representative of the future business operation are on the phone, as well as the traffic engineer. So Tim looks like he's unmuted himself and is probably ready to speak.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Tim Freitag with Bowler Engineering, 17 Computer Drive West, Albany, New York.
Okay.
Thank you for the time this evening. I can jump in and give a brief update if you'd like.
Please, thank you.
Sure. I'll make it generally short here. We're here tonight continuing the site plan review process at 1115 East Ridge Road, looking to redevelop the former Staples facility with Chick-fil-A. Few months of work here, back and forth with the board. We've secured all special use permit and ZBA approvals through the town board and zoning board. Planning board here is our last step for final site plan approval. Since our last workshop a couple weeks ago, we've resubmitted a site plan that's documented our commitment to some contrasting crosswalks and materials, as well as a traffic signal out at the intersection of the shared access drive between us, Wendy's and Home Depot, and Portland Avenue. As described on the previous application and at the workshop in more detail, We've worked closely with Monroe County DOT, the development team across the street, the town engineer, town staff to work through some traffic concerns that the planning board had early on in this project. Since that resubmission, we've received a final round of engineering comments from Labella. Those are geared towards the stormwater management facility on the site. There's a couple minor comments left that we take no objection to, none of which that would change the site plan layout of the property. As a reminder, we are increasing green space on this site by over 20%, so it's a great redevelopment opportunity here along this corridor. That's pretty much the update. Here to answer any final questions the planning board may have, close the public hearing. We can talk through seeker and hopefully render a decision on the project. So Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you and the board.
Thank you. Board members, anybody who has questions, please feel free.
I have a staff question, and I apologize if this was already answered at the workshop meeting, which I was not at this month, but we had discussed previously, I think that staff was going to check to see if the signage that was located off the property was allowed, basically, or already had easements. Has that been clarified?
That has been, that was approved as part of the prior Staples application. And so no need to fix or address that in any way now. It was part of a past that was treated as a plaza, for lack of a better term. And we did take a look at that prior to the board going to the ZBA, so that if anything needed to be cleared up there, we could do that. And I will, okay. Yeah, thank you. Great. Though.
Yeah, thank you. My only other real comment is I just wanted to say thank you to the applicant for the work on the sidewalk and changing all the location and how the sidewalk operates. I think it's much better the way it's now revised.
Thank you, Spence. Any other questions from any of the board members? We're all good with signage?
And the only one that I have, Bernie, and just because I didn't see it, and it's probably here, the hours, the curfew hours on the signs being on. The applicant's aware of that?
We are, and back in September, we submitted a formal response to comments.
Got it. That's what I thought I had read it.
Yep, and in that comment response letter, we've committed to the 1 hour pre and the 2 hour post.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions? So is the public hearing still open on this?
Yes.
I think it is. So with that, I'd open up the public hearing. Gary, is there anybody that'd like to address this case?
Gary, you're muted.
Apologies. We only have one other number in attendance, and it's a 518 number, which leads me to believe it's a member of Tim's staff, potentially, or a colleague.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, so we have no one raising their hands looking to speak, and Michelle can let us know if we've got any live comments coming to us via
live
email.
Comments to the planning board email. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No
live comments.
Okay. So with that, and there's no objections, I'd like to close the public hearing. At this point in time, if the board has any other questions before we talk about seeker. Okay, so Carrie, would you like to take us through seeker?
I'm certainly happy to do so. In looking at this project, the property is consistent with the land use and community character of the area. It's bringing a new building that's design and construction will be consistent with the vernacular of redevelopment along East Ridge Road. and it's consistent with the design standards and guidelines that were provided in the comprehensive master plan. The proposed project is going to increase green space and reduce the proportion of pavement and buildings on site by approximately 22%, which is going to decrease potential impact of stormwater runoff associated with the development. Although the site's going to require excavation and fill associated with construction, the impacts will be short-term duration of construction and aren't going to be excessive in nature. Additionally, the development will be required to prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which would be monitored during and after construction to ensure compliance with all applicable New York State stormwater management regulations and erosion control requirements. The one issue that was checked as a potentially large or moderate impact was the impact of traffic, and looking at the action in light of the traffic memorandum originally submitted with the application, the updated and revised traffic impact study that was submitted in response to Monroe County DOT's request for additional analysis, and the conclusion that a traffic signal is warranted at the Portland Avenue entrance, which creates a four-way intersection with the neighboring parcel across Portland, and with Monroe County DOT's agreement with the conclusion that a traffic signal is warranted and that they will be able to coordinate with the applicant on its installation. That potential impact of traffic is mitigated with respect to its impact on neighboring streets. The environmental analysis also noted the significant on-site vehicle storage that the site accommodates for queuing of drive-through vehicles. In addition to the queuing between menu board and pickup window, there's a significant overflow available on site and on the adjacent interior access roadway between this development site and the Home Depot location, so that will minimize any potential impacts of traffic spilling off of the site, and that the applicant provided as part of their submission their strategies for managing on-site traffic flow, particularly during the early stage of a new opening. With respect to utilities energy use, this is located on a site that's previously been accessed by all utilities. This site's going to be able to be served with no issue or concern. For that reason, in reviewing all of the potential impacts, finding no large or moderate impacts that can't be mitigated, effectively, the recommendation is for a negative declaration for the purpose of seeker.
Type 2 neg deck, is that what you said?
It's an unlisted action.
Unlisted action. Thank you.
Unlisted action, negative declaration.
Thank you. Any questions for Carrie on that review from the board?
No, I would just like to comment that that the site, here has significantly more what I'll call flat and open space on it, for any potential additional stormwater retention or anything that may need to be done as part of this. But I just wanted to mention that for this application.
Thank you. And before we proceed, I did have a question for the applicant, so I apologize for taking one step back. I believe since the last time we met, you've now had another opening in this area. Is there anything that you have learned from that opening that would cause any change to anything you shared with us to date?
Oh, wait, no.
Yeah, this is Tim over at Bowler Engineering. Yes, we did recently have a successful grand opening, and Chick-fil-A is now serving chicken sandwiches over in the town of Henrietta if you guys need a late night snack. The grand opening was successful. They had a grand opening team on site to take care of any overflow of traffic. However, there were only a handful of occasions where traffic extended beyond the drive-through entrance. It's not anything that wasn't able to be handled on site. And that, as a reminder, that drive-through holds about 24 vehicles. And then there were maybe an additional 5 that ever backed up on that facility. So that being to second to market had a significant difference than the first to market.
Thank you.
I drove
Appreciate
by
that
today,
update.
Bernie, it was fine, the traffic.
Okay. I think the current times are probably having an impact on that also. That's just an assumption. Okay, with that, anybody like to make a motion on seeker?
I would move that on case PB 2020-08-3, that this be an unlisted action with a negative declaration.
I'll second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Any abstain or any absent? None. Hearing none, it's all ayes. I would like to entertain a motion for the site plan approval.
All right, PB 2020-08-3. I move that we agree to accept and approve the application as presented and amended.
I'll second that. All those that approve, please say aye.
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 Any nay? Any abstain? Any absent? I just want to confirm no nay, no abstain. Okay, carries 7-0. We look forward to being able to not have to travel to another area if we need to partake. Thank you, and we wish you a very successful opening.
Thank you very much. And just one question for clarification. That approval does include signage. So do we need to resubmit anything further on signage, Carrie?
No, the board considered the signage application or the package that was included as part of this site plan.
Great.
And so the only issue that would need your compliance going forward would just be the lights on and lights off time restrictions for those signs.
Which they already memorialized, so we didn't have to put that as a condition, correct?
Right, they agreed to it in writing.
They did.
Yep. So that's why I didn't put that down. Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you all very much. I know it's running late here, but we really appreciate you staying up to hear us this evening and all the great feedback we've got. I think we have a great site plan and a great project as an end result. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for working with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want a couple other motions, Bernie?
Oh, wait, we've
please.
got a stack of minutes.
No, that's what I had, but you can go ahead.
Well, I watched all the past meetings on Facebook.
Oh, then you get to do them.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so I move that we approve the August 24th, no, I take it back. There's one edit to the August 24th minutes. In the header, it's August 24th of 2020, not 2019.
Correct.
Well done.
Okay, look at that. I almost blew it, but I had to read it. So, I approve. I move that we approve those with that amendment.
All those. Who seconded that? Who was that? Second?
Pick one.
Me.
I got Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Palermo. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Thank you. It sounded like Mr. Palermo, but that's okay.
It
All
wasn't
those in
bad.
favor, please say aye.
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 Any nay? No abstains and no absence. Carries. Any
All
other?
right. September 28th, I have one edit. 6th bullet down in Ann's statement on the first case. Like the dimensioning, taking things from big to small, but would like it to stay current size, comma, and then you've got space, comma.
I see it.
If you make that edit, I approve, or I recommend that we move to approve these as amended.
Second.
I'll second. Oh, thank you, Mr. Richard. Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nay? None absent, none abstain. It passes. Thank you.
All right, October 26th. Again, watch this afterwards. On the second case, under the motion, number 2, A Knox box is a proper noun, so the K in Knox should be capitalized. If you make that edit, I will then recommend we approve them as amended.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I'm going to abstain because I did not read those. I apologize. I wasn't here. That was the very short meeting, wasn't it? If I remember.
It makes up for tonight.
Okay. I got to plan better. All right. Thank you. I thank you, everybody. I'd like to move that we adjourn.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Everybody have a great
Thank you,
Thanksgiving.
Same to all of you.
And thank
Be
you,
safe
everybody,
and
for your long
healthy.
hours. Yes. Everybody be safe, and thank you for your time tonight, everybody. Appreciate it.
Overtime.
Take care of this.
Overtime. All right. Thank you.
Night, everyone.